are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. These proceedings are being taped and video recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking this time this evening to join us and your interest in Alief Independent School District. At this time, please stand as Craig Icon, Public Relations Specialist, will introduce the group leading the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge, and a moment of silence.
Ready? Cut. First, arch, up, pride, 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 up, arch, tie, arch, Bogart, hold, breathe, and push.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let's remain standing for a moment of silence. Be seated.
Breathe, push. Ready? Cut. Pride, face. Hold first, arch, up, pride, 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 up, pride, Bogart, hold,
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Taylor High School Navy ROTC.
At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Chambers to present the board recommendations.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, and welcome to everyone that's here. I know there are several of you in the audience that are here because of some agenda items that have relevance to your efforts and contributions to our district, so we'll get started on that pretty quickly. But before we do that, for those of you that are, I was going to say for those of you not in the school business, but this is inclusive, someone in the school business doesn't realize this, but the state of Texas many years ago declared January as the State of Texas School Board Appreciation Month. And while we attempt to express our appreciation through a variety of ways throughout the year, January is the month that over 7,700 adults across the state of Texas who serve voluntarily, unpaid, across the 1,100 schools, independent school districts across the state of Texas. And 7 of those individuals are representing the Alief Independent School District, the community, and serving as a governance board over the policies and the actions in which the school district takes. And so never will words suffice to express appreciation of the adults not only sitting at this dais that represents this community, but those others that represent districts across the state of Texas, large and small. And while everyone attempts to do the right thing, which is to make decisions in the best interest of students, there's a lot of other tremendous responsibilities and tremendous pressures that are put on these individuals who volunteer their time. And so Very rarely do they get attaboys or attagirls or attaladies or attamen or compliments for their efforts. But that's not why they sign up for this gig. That's not why they run. That's not why they put themselves out there. They put their proverbial neck on the line for absolutely no compensation, none. And the efforts that they put forth in trying to be valuable members of a team of 8, including myself, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I've been a superintendent for 15 years. I've worked with a lot of board members, a lot. And in the 8 years, almost 8 years I've been in this position, I can unequivocally, with complete honesty, tell you that every man and woman that has sat up here with me has been nothing but loyal to this district, loyal to the students of this district, and have held me accountable for doing the same. And as a community member, if you're a taxpayer in this district, if you're getting ready to write your mortgage check, or if you've already written your tax check to this district, while I know it's high, I want you to know that the individuals that I report to manage that money, and they take that seriously, and we attempt to spend every penny as wisely as possible. And these 7 individuals hold me to account for that, and as they should. So I appreciate them, not only because they're 7 of my supervisors or my bosses, but I've been in this business long enough to know what goes along with what they're doing. And many times they have to bite their tongue and hold back, and then many times they're able to speak their minds, but don't ever mistake or misunderstand that their role and the things that they do for this district are tremendous. And that does not happen everywhere. You don't have to look very far in many cases to realize that. This district is blessed. Whether you realize it or not, whether you agree with it or not, it is blessed to have these individuals sit up here and govern the school system. I'm honored to be here and honored to serve as their superintendent. So with that, we have some individuals that don't report to you that are here, that they would like to share some perspectives from some students, share some perspectives from the community and our business partners. So if you'd indulge us just a little bit, Ms. Williams and board, I'd like to introduce first an employee of this district, one of the 6,500 employees across this district, a teacher, our STEM coordinator from Ali Middle School, Ms. Samika Leaston. Samika, if you don't mind coming up. Welcome, thank you.
It's an honor to be here to speak on behalf of the employees of Ely by Mississippi. So I would like to start off by saying Sammy Leaston, Deidre Jefferson, Maya Watkins, Jenna Johnson, David Holmquist, Maggie Cuellar, Vincent Lewis, Lori Wyatt, Inga Waxman, Katrina Reese, Norbert Hill, Dr. Karen Jacobs, Lon Fulbright, Felicia Robinson, Andrew Shimarek, Gabriel Jehu, Adriana Alvarez, Matthew Stars, Shannon Canary, Nelda Bieskis. Some of the names you may recognize and others you may not, but they are the reason that I am standing before you at this moment. They are the reason that I and infinite others have been impacted by the great decisions of our Ely by Mississippi School Board. You see, I remember walking home from Harlem Middle School with my best friend, Maya Watkins, or having Mr. Holmquist encourage me to get to class just a little bit quicker at Hastings High School. Or to have Ms. Jenna Johnson encourage me to return to Ely to teach English, because her class inspired me so greatly in English. I appreciated Mr. Vincent Lewis's vision and reassurance to pursue greater beyond the classroom. I screamed like a giddy teenager to see and learn that my fellow Hastings classmates, Inga Lax and Katrina Reese, were now my colleagues in Ely, and Duquesne, where I'm about to be a major force in the English department. To walk in my school office at Olive Middle School one morning and have a young man turn around before me, and his name is Andrew Shimmelek, who had returned from 7 years earlier to come and hug me and thank me for being his teacher and to help to guide him into who he was at that moment. I began crying, and I could barely contain myself, because you never truly know how much of an impact that you have felt on the children. To be given the vision of STEM from the district and entrusted by my principal to help navigate and work hard with my team to bring it to life, and then to have it take flight with business partners like Shannon McNary and Visit Go, who extended their hand to help us soar, has been unequivocally humbling for my principal, Nelda Viescas, myself, and our staff. This is just a glimpse of my journey in A-League, and I can only imagine the journeys and the stories of the millions of intertwined lives A-League ISD has touched. It is because of you, our school board members, and the decisions that you make that are best for all, innovative, and groundbreaking, that I stand here proud to say that I am an A-League alumni, an A-League aunt, an A-League best friend, an A-League employee, an A-League daughter, an A-League leader, an A-League innovator, A-League fantastic, and most importantly, A-League proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Samika. Next, the reason we do what we do and the reason the trustees up here are in the role they're in is because of the students. And we have two students who are here from Taylor High School who would like to share, and no pressure, but you're going to speak on behalf of about 47,000 kids, so no pressure. So first, I don't know what order you guys are going to go, if you're going to be up there at the same time, but I'd like to introduce Taylor Hampton and DeWine Joseph from Taylor High School.
Good evening. My name is DeWine Joseph, and I am a senior at Taylor High School. I would like to thank the school board for supporting the education and training pathway. I am a TAPI member and a second-year practical education and training student. Where I still teach at New Intermediate, your support of pathways like this has truly helped to retain the learning environment. The support the district has afforded me chances to receive professional development, training in champs, restored practices, family engagement, readiness, lesson plans, design, and so much more. Thank you for providing us with mentors who are so much more motivated and able to guide us through the education system, ensuring that we are able to bring positive change within the classroom. Thank you from here for us and meet our needs to be successful English teachers. In the future, after my 4 years of college, I'm excited to return as a Elite ISD alumni to help continue to build education and support my community. Once again, thank you, Elite ISD School Board, for your guidance, training, and support when it comes to your future education. We're grateful and all that you do and can't wait to return and make you all proud. Thank you.
Taylor Hampton.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Hampton, and I am a senior at A.D. Taylor High School. And I would like to begin by thanking you all for coming out and tonight recognizing our school board and all that they do for A.D. ISD. I want to personally express my gratitude to the A.D. School board members. Thank you for being the voice for teachers in our educational needs and wants. I especially want to thank you for your support programs like the Education and Training Pathway and the TAPI Code. Because of the support of these programs, I have been offered opportunities that most high schools students can only dream of. Through the Education and Training Pathway, I have been able to participate in an internship at Miller Intermediate, where I'm learning the real ins and outs of being a teacher. I'm able to practice my craft, and it has only increased my excitement to become a teacher one day. Your support of clubs like TAPI allowed me to travel to Orlando, Florida this past summer to compete in national competitions, where me and my partner received 4th place for a project we did highlighting the district comment program. I have learned so much through these programs, and I understand that I am very lucky to attend school in a district that supports career exploration. I am very excited to come back to ALE as an alumni and share everything that I've learned growing up in this diverse community. I want to be able to give my future students the same love, support, and encouragement I received growing up at ALE. So thank you all for all you do for ALE and student life.
Thank you both, Dwayne and Taylor. Dwayne, I think you and I sat down and did a video one time on school safety. Yeah. It's not meeting like this. As a part of our, one second before I do that. These two individuals, that along with a lot of others, are here and have been able to express their opportunities so far in the education, the pipeline to be an educator as a result of Andrea Satsu. Where's Miss Andrea? There she is. There's their instructor, the TAFE coordinator, supporter, sponsor. You're the TAFE department, right? So thank you very much for all you do for these two, obviously, and then all the other kids that you support. It is greatly appreciated, and we desperately need them to fill that teaching pipeline. So we'll have a pre-contract ready for you after the. All right, last but certainly not least, we'd like to introduce someone who represents the business community. And I'd like to introduce from Heffman Ford, Mr. Earl Hampton. Where's Earl? There's Mr. Hampton, come on up. They're asking where their cars will be delivered.
Happy to take you again.
I'd be happy to sell you a car.
Good evening, Superintendent Chambers. Today, Vice the Board of Trustees, administrators, faculty, family, friends, but last but not least, the most hardest working lady that I know, Ms. Dee Jones. I did you reading from Heffman Ford and myself, the dealer representative. First, I want to thank you, board members and all the members of ALE Independent School District, for this wonderful partnership between ALE ISD and Heffman Ford. Heffman Ford provides vehicles for ALE ISD yearly during the Independent International Parade and other times during the year. We provide vehicles for the district and other special events. This Force Partnerships also affords the employees of ALE ISD, family, friends, the opportunity to come in and to purchase a vehicle and a no-haggle buying experience. There are other things that come along with that. You get special pricing, you get huge discounts on new vehicles, get an additional $500 off of already discounted internet pricing, and the internet is designed to put a price out there because of the internet. You can't inflate the price, but you're able to come in and give an additional discount off of that. You have a designated dealer coordinator, which is myself, that will work with you through every phase of the buying experience. And even in addition to that, we understand that life happens. And sometimes bad things happen to good people. And so that means that sometimes we have people that are credit challenged. We have about a 90% approval rating, which means that if you come in, I'm going to work with you through all phases to try and help you get financed in a vehicle. And when a person purchases a vehicle from Heffman Ford, then again, what Heffman Ford does is give money back to the district to help you in your efforts to do what you're doing. And Sister D, I have 2 checks here for you right now. And that is because of employees and friends that come in and purchase a vehicle from us. Once again, I want to say thank you to all of you for your daily preparation and preparing kids and preparing children for tomorrow. We're here for them for today. I know that working with children sometimes can be frustrating, and you wonder whether your efforts are in vain. Truly understand, because my dad was an educator. My dad taught over 35 years. His sister, his only sister, was an educator for the same length of time. My wife is an educator who's in administration in South Fair School District. My daughter, my only daughter, started out her professional career in education right here in AE in the 9th grade center. So I want you to understand I have a heart for educators. But I want to share something with you. Oftentimes you wonder if whether or not your efforts are in vain. But I want you to understand that those efforts are not in vain, and Help Move Forward has a unique relationship, in my opinion, with AE Independent School District. Each and every day, we experience the benefits that AE has to offer on a daily basis at Help Move Forward. Let me explain to you what I'm talking about. Our office manager, Lisa Ross, is an AE-LC alumni. Our service manager, who's over our entire service department, Doug Eichner, is a AE Hastings alumni. Our finance director, Gustavo, I call him Gus, is an AE Hastings alumnus. Kurt Kapperstreet, our F&I manager, is from AE Hastings. Marcus Warren, our internet manager, is an AE alumni. The reason I said that is because I want you to know that the efforts that you aspire to accomplish on a daily basis here in AE is not in vain. We value the relationship that we have. We want you to come out and purchase vehicles, but we want you to know that each and every day, AE alumnus is at work for Help Move Forward. Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton, appreciate it. Board, I have two more introductions. I'd like to introduce Ms. Carla Kessler, our Director of Federal Programs, to come up. She's got a couple of people to recognize as a part of the after-school program that are very well deserving of this, and I think you'll appreciate this.
Absolutely, thank you. Good evening. You will recall that after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita hit the Gulf Coast in August and September of 2005, thousands of students were displaced. During that first school year, which was 2005-2006, over 3,300 displaced students arrived at AE-ISD, and many more continue to come over the following weeks and months. In response to the needs of those students and their families, in 2006, a group of community organizations partnered together to provide a safe space after school where students and their families could receive the educational, social, emotional, and outreach support that they might need, all free of charge. The program is called Houston's Kids. Over the last 13 years, the Houston's Kids Partnership has served thousands of students and is now in 7 schools. Houston's Kids is funded by United Way, but it includes the Children's Museum of Houston, the YMCA, Communities in Schools Houston, and of course AE-ISD. A comprehensive external evaluation is conducted every year and consistently shows positive benefits for students and their families. Tonight, I'd like to recognize the organizations and individuals that comprise the Houston Kids Partnership for the faithful and ongoing support of this important work. But before I introduce those individuals, I'd also like to recognize one of our board members, Jennifer Key, who was on the Houston Kids Steering Committee for a number of years and was integral to the success of the partnership. So thank you, Jennifer. Ms. Key. On behalf of the NFISD, I'd like to recognize, if you could just go ahead and come to the front, Angelica Adams from Communities and Schools, the Director of Strategic Partnerships. Go right there. From the United Way, Tiffany Echeverria, Program Manager of Community Involvement. From the YMCA, H. Chambers, Executive Director of Bethel School. From the Children's Museum of Houston, Armando Luna, Director of Outreach Programs. And Dr. Roger Durand, the Professor of Management in the College of Business at the University of Houston for our outside evaluation. You have some certificates here for you. United Way. Here we go. Sorry. YMCA.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla, and thank you for that recognition. Last thing, board, and then we'll move on. This month's Going the Extra Mile Award, otherwise known as the GEM Award, is going to a unbelievable lady that I've gotten to know every time I go to Mata Intermediate. That's Miss Donna White. Hey, Donna. Hey, Donna. Donna and I have taken a picture outside, so we won't make her take a picture again. But I do want to read just a little bit about Donna and why she. Stand up, Donna. Donna's at Mata Intermediate School, and she's currently the 6th grade Ames Language Arts Reading and Social Studies teacher. In addition to her teaching duties, she is also a sponsor of several of the student organization, as well as serving on the Educational Improvement Council committee. She has taught for the past 15 years at Mata, and prior to that, she was at Klinsman Intermediate, and she also served some time in Port Arthur, Texas. Is that right? Just close to my hometown. Donna, not only are we recognizing her for her tremendous service to our students at Mata, but Donna recently had to use the Heimlich maneuver to save a student from choking on a water bottle cap during lunch. The parent of the student, along with our Mata administrators and staff, were thankful for her quick actions to save the student, to say the least. This is not the first time this has occurred. In 2004, Donna saved another student from choking by also using the Heimlich. So it goes without saying that the two individuals that you provided health care to and their families, thank you. But just as importantly, on behalf of myself and obviously the school board and our district, thank you for being such a great representative for not only teaching, but doing the right thing and being prepared for when situations like that occur. So thank you very much, and proud as I can be of you. Thank you. Standing ovation, not bad. You walk around looking for people choking. All right, Ms. Williams, thank you very much.
Ms. Williams, can I just make a comment, if possible, before we get started? It's more about Board Appreciation Month as well. As most of you know, I've been on board 11 years, going on to 12. I participate in a lot of the state conventions and conferences and so forth. And I was able to participate in a leadership TASB group where we a group of school board members from around the state meet, and we become what they call conserve master trustees and develop our leadership skills, and very good networking. So I know a lot of trustees throughout the state, and again, wishing them great success in their district in this Board Appreciation Month. But it's very common when I've talked to a lot of the board members, usually the first year, a lot of them will kind of sit back and really not get so involved. It's just kind of the standard whenever you take on a new position, you kind of like, kind of a bug on the wall, and you kind of like, just kind of see what's going on before you really jump in. It's different here. Last November, we were concerned, I was concerned as a board member, that we were going to have 4 new board members that were going to come onto our school board. And there was always concern because we had a couple that were retiring. We had the loss of Deidre Jefferson, and so we had 3 board members that had got off the board. And so I was kind of nervous. So when the election completed, we had these 4 new board members. We were nervous, and they didn't sit back. They were not a bug on the wall. They worked hard. They've taken on responsibilities their first year. My partner next to me here took on as vice president, where a lot of school board members will wait 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, second term before even trying to take on extra responsibility like that. So we have a great board that's continuing. So I just wanted to personally give you some recognition as well. So.
Marino, when there were 4 board member positions up, I was nervous too.
Probably half the room was up.
Just saying, just saying. Yeah, there were some that were excited.
Okay, well, Ms. Moreno, thank you so very much for sharing that. Great job. I couldn't have said it any better. So I appreciate that, and I all I say is kudos. I agree with everything that he said. There was some great concern, but from the very beginning, I knew that everybody would step up to the plate. I got a chance to sit down and talk to everyone, and they stated what their passion was. And it's about A-LEAF. It really is about A-LEAF and our students and our community. So I want to say how much I appreciate working with this great team. And I say it most so because we hear so many other districts in the media all the time. And it's very difficult when you go to places and people say, how is A-LEAF? And when we say fine, they're smiling. And I know most people will say there are underlying things going on. But whatever happens, I think that we are really a team of 8. And we make sure, like a family, that we take care of what we're supposed to. So I want to say how much I appreciate each and every one of you for your professionalism. One of my goals as a board member 12 years ago was to be able to work with a board that was productive and professional. So you can't ask for any better board than this. Nowhere in Texas, I'm sorry, you can't. Instead, I wanted to add something else. I wanted to say, Shamika left, but could you please tell her I'm going to need her to write a few of my speeches for me. She does an outstanding job. So thank you so very much. Could you please share that information? We really appreciate that. And I want to say of my students, thank you for your being here tonight and really representing A-LEAF. It is not until we hear your voices that we know that we're on the right path. Okay, so I want to tell you thank you, my future teachers and leaders, and, you know, I like that smiling and you know, that confidence. That's that A-LEAF pride that's there. So I want to say thank you so very much. Let me ask, do you have parents that's here with you tonight? No, not tonight. Well, send a special thank you to them as well, because we know that it's not just us as board members and as educators. We know here in A-LEAF it's really a team effort. So thank you so very much. Send our thanks to them. Okay? All right.
And I just want to tell them that Mr. Chambers wasn't kidding. Ms. Velos Powell, can you wave at them so you can have their contracts today before they leave the building today?
Okay. So board, if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and continue forward. I know that we typically take a break, but those of you who feel that you would like to be excused, you're free to go. Those who are still on the agenda, I ask that you remain.
Donna.
Ms. Donna, you getting all the way here. Thank you so very much. You got your standing ovation. I'm still thinking, thank you.
And thank you for giving my daughter-in-law such a good foundation in teaching.
So, Ms. Jones, at this time, we're ready for the donation report as they're clearing out.
That's a student. Hey, Donna, is that the student? Whoa. I'm sorry, I did not realize that. I had no idea.
Did we get a photo? Did they
Yeah,
get a photo?
Where's Leslie? Leslie, can we get a picture with Ms. White and this young man? I didn't realize that was him. Come here, buddy, come here.
Joseph, I'm a nurse.
Joseph, nice to meet you, okay? Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Did your mom bring you today? What's her name?
Martha.
Martha? Okay, well, thank you. We'll let you take a picture with Ms. White, okay? All right, buddy, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I didn't realize that was who that was.
No.
All right.
Ms. Jones, are you ready? We're still trying to get over the thought. We're excited that Ms. Donna was there. So, go, Ms. Jones.
Good evening, Mr. Chambers, Board of Trustees, and guests. Donations for January 2019. $27,000 caring for Children Foundation of Texas, Incorporated, 85C. $6,000 Women ESOP, 85C. $5,869.70 Central Petroleum, Island. $4,759, which includes bank backpack pay, 85C. $3,990, Houston Two-Bank Teachers Aid Program, 85C. $3,900, Big Teamwork Network, 85C. $3,879, United Bakery Cafe, 85C. $3,520, Santa at the Ensemble Theater, Best. $3,000, Ameritex Movers, 85C. $2,750, Wings Over Houston, Elsik. $2,500, Morning Donut Shop, 85C. $2,300, Karen Hennedy's, Cummings. $2,000, Lady Food Association, 85C. $1,904, Thomas Shoes, Cummings. $1,795, Project Aristocrat, Horn and Sneed. $1,700, Santa at Ensemble Theater, Alexander. $1,595, Agape Bible Church Pastor Paris Patrick, 85C. $1,484, Jonas Shoes, Albright. $1,100, Tom Hahn, KYAZ, 51.3, 85C. $1,000, Walmart Highway 6 South, 85C. $1,000, Display Goods, Elsie. $890, ACC, World Red Club, 85C. $720, Jones Shoes, Kaplan. $700, Olsay, Mayor. Sayed G, Landis. $675, Heads Up Houston, Chancellor. $663.65, Jones Shoes, Mahaney. $608.33, Jones Shoes, Chancellor. $598.75, Jones Shoes, ALC. $500, Chick-fil-A, 85C. $500, Central Petroleum, 85C. $500, Costello Scholarship Fund, 84 College High School. $500, Scholastic Book Club, O'Donnell. $500, Young Ladies Circle Club, Veronica Spiller, Ewins. Grand total, $9,408.82.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I have a motion to approve the donation report. So moved. Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Key. Do I have a second?
I second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Bro. All in favor of the donation report? The record show is 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, at this time, we are moving to item number 5, which is a patron presentation. The board encourages and welcomes comments and input from the patron, but we cannot respond, deliberate, or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the posted agenda. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes, and please be reminded that board policy prohibits the mentioning of an employee's names when voicing concerns or complaints. Tonight, we have before us, and please forgive me if I said incorrect, it says Theo Rito, am I correct? Thank you. Mr. Rito is coming forth as a parent to discuss an issue with daughter that attends Ailey Hastings.
I'd like to focus on the paper we have. I also have a short video I'd like to walk up and just show you guys before I start talking, make everything go clear on my phone.
He's, give me 1 moment because we typically don't do that, and I want to stay within the guise of 5 minutes, not to make that.
Craig, if you get his information, if you can get it to him, we'll make sure the board gets it.
How about you? Gotcha.
Yeah, normally, I was so amazed to see all the kids get all the awards and everybody, all the, positivity, which is great, and I get to kind of, change the tone a little bit, but, my daughter is, she's telling me, Daddy, this is what happened, and this is what you gotta do, and I never had a problem taking care of things, whatever it is that I gotta do. I do a little bit of background on me. From 12 years old, I played official sports, football, team captain. We won the championship at 12 and 13. Went to junior high, did the same thing. Team captain on the basketball team, team captain on the football team. High school team captain from sophomore to the senior. Good in playing sports. But my daughter is not as good in sports as I am, but she loves playing. She's played since she's at YMCA, Albright, and over at Hastings. She's played all the years, and she doesn't care if she gets in there 2 minutes. She just loves playing. Around December, I got a phone call from her, and she's telling me, Dad, there's some issues going on the team, and I can't play right now. So, of course I was concerned, and, as I was, making my paperwork to come talk to you guys, I looked at the mission statement, which says, 85 ISD in collaboration with the parents community will provide exemplary education and for the students in a safe environment. And I guess the safe environment for a partner, because, she's kind of been a victim of bullying, It happened started her junior year with one of the girls on the team, she actually, in basketball, I'm sorry, she started, having issues with her, she told the assistant coach, who addressed it right away, which is good and stamped it out, but later on, research began, her senior year, which is, she's a senior now, she's graduating, so, she told the coach again, and the coach told her, hey, just suck it up. It's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Don't feed into it. Just suck it up. She didn't go any further with it or anything. So that was kind of like a little issue. That kept going on and on. Until just recently in December when she was at one of the games. After school, they had a away game. It was, they were sitting there in the girls' gym. The boys were playing, they had a game, they all sitting in the stands. Everything's going good. They started a little conversation, talking back and forth, her and the same girl again, all of a sudden, the girls got up, everybody except for I went to the locker room, and, the coach, he's in his office, you know, I don't know where any other supervision is, nobody said anything or noticed anything, and, you know, she said in the stand as long as she could, she had to go and get her bag to get on the bus, you know, she went back there to get her bag, and there was an altercation in the bag, got a video, like I said, I want to show you guys, and, you know, she got assaulted, you know, by one of the other girls on the team, which, you know, I can't even fathom it because, you know, that athletic environment is almost like a military environment. Everybody is on point, you know. The statement they gave me was the one that all the girls signed, and my ex-wife signed too, and they told me that was grounds enough to actually put her off the team, you know, so, you know, she's, you know, calling me and crying and saying, Dad, you know, I just walked back there and, you know, I got assaulted, and, you know, I didn't have to pay that price. Meanwhile, the rest of the team just got extra exercises. One game was postponed, they were back, you know, they were all back playing again, she wasn't, and it's kind of been going on like that. I went through all this channel, hate to be up here, you know, now talking about this. I thought we could have handled it before it got to this point, but here I am up here talking about it now because, you know, the coach, the assistant principals, hers, and you know, another assistant principal, and the principal, and the superintendent, all sided with the coach that she shouldn't be on the team, and so her 4 years and all the basketball she played, and being a good student, and not talking to me, probably not doing anything, and actually being a victim, you know, she seemed to be, you know, left out, you know. So when I look at the mission statement, it says safe environment, you know, and that, you know, we're trying to be fair to all the kids that look out for our kids, you know, not only my kid, but every kid that might happen to, you know. I'm just wondering, you know, where is it at, you know? You know, I myself got an army accident with E.T. Wheeler. In 2003, she was 3 years old. She watched her daddy fight all the way back up to where I am now. Still got surgery I got to do, whatever the case is. She is very strong. She's to herself. She's, you know, she's smart. She doesn't cause anybody any problems. I just can't see, you know, why it happened to her like it did, you know. And
Mr. Reno, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your time has run out, but thank you it is unfortunate that you had to bring it to the board in this manner, but that's why we have patron presentations.
Right.
Thank you also for providing the document, and as mentioned before, Mr. Icon is waiting to obtain the information from you.
And thank you guys for listening to me and hearing me out. And you know, I'm sorry I had to bring back and jump out good news, but I'm hoping the rest of the night.
It's okay, you're just doing a parent job. Thank you.
Ms. Williams, I'm sure, I mean, we'll get some report if the, and,
Thank you again, Mr. Rita.
Thank you.
We're moving on to the consent agenda. Is there an item on the consent agenda in which you would like to have removed for discussion? Is there any item that you would like to have removed?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would like to pull one item off. I just want to give the board an opportunity. I would like to pull off item number 612, please. Okay. Now, if there's no other, now I will call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the ballot.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Moreno. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Nguyen. All in favor of approving the balance of the agenda? But it shows 6-0. Mr. Woods, could you just help me out? These are minor questions. The reason why I wanted to pull this off, because we've been having quite a few of these, and I don't think it's anything wrong. Do you have the policy in which you say that we allow the naming of schools? This is the item, right?
Correct, it's CW local.
CW local, do you have it in front of you? I'm sorry, I'm having some technical issues here. Okay, but the board saw the policy on it. Has there been an update to that policy or something? I think,
No, ma'am, I think the policy has been around for a long time. I think
the policy's been around, but the use of our,
it to name portions of facilities specifically happened, I think it was 2 years ago now, with 2 gymnasiums and a baseball field at LC. Prior to that, the policy wasn't used in that manner, it was just a nomination. It was last updated, it was issued in September 2013, looks like it was adopted then, and it hasn't been updated since. So ultimately, what it requires is if we have a name for a nomination for a name of a facility or a portion of a facility, the board can direct the superintendent to seek nominations in addition to the nominations that were already made. Or if we're building a new facility, the board can initiate that action and say, well, we want to name this facility, so go seek nominations, and then we have to place an ad either in the Chronicle or run it in the Communicator and seek nominations. And then we'll bring those back to you for voting and naming that portion of the facility or that entire facility. So the actual trigger that we receive these nominations, but the trigger to actually getting that done would be to approve this, which directs us to seek additional nominations from the public and then bring it back to you for a vote.
so even though the people have come forth and they requested they have buildings named, we would do an approval that would open it up for other people to participate.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that was the concern that I had because, school naming was when I came into the boardroom 12 years ago. And so it's one of those issues that, we haven't had to name a lot of facilities because we haven't, I think, since I've been on the board, the only thing that we've opened up was the Career Center. I don't think we named any other facilities since Budawick, HomeQuest was, that's right, HomeQuest. Right. Okay. So the reason why I had those questions, when I see this come across, I typically say, oh yeah, that's okay. The only thing that's getting me about the frequency of these that are coming, I asked the question, I sent you an email on.
Yes.
Are we naming libraries? Are we naming halls? Are we naming wings? It seems like we're constantly naming sports facilities. So I wanted to know if those individuals are having, what triggers that it's happening with athletics. You understand what I'm saying? I would like to see libraries named after individuals and things like that. But I didn't know if it was like a conversation that was going on where someone says, hey, we have a sports facility, and I find nothing wrong with it. I don't. I just know that it has not been discussed since we decided to put this in place. And I think we have had, about 6 facilities? Three facilities?
Holly Middle School, the original gymnasium, Coach Mitchell, and then Hastings North Gym and Copley Field at Elsig, was the baseball field.
Okay, those are the only ones.
So those are the 3 in recent years.
Okay, okay.
Before that, it was the Ness Auditorium and the Dale Schroeder Fieldhouse at Elsig. Both of those were due to loss of a student and loss of an employee. And so those were years ago before.
The last thing that I guess I would add to that is, does everyone, the individuals that are coming forth with these names, I think all but one were an employee of the district, right? I think you supplied.
Yes,
Yeah.
the only one that was not an employee nominating employee there was, Coach Mitchell Dwight Mitchell for Ollie Gymnasium.
And, okay, so at the end of the day, my big question mark is, how do these people know to do that? And why does it keep happening in the athletics and not, you know, there may be someone who, you know, work at a campus and want to name a library or hall, and it's really, I'm not trying to make a huge deal, but I just want you to know the question mark that comes in my head when I continuously see them for athletic facilities.
I'll tell you real briefly. They asked originally to me what is the process if we want to name a facility, and so it originated from that both of those large high schools, and Ollie Middle School being as old as it is, that they had never had any portion of the building named after anybody. Those particular athletic programs in their original first 25 years of operation were statewide successful and had long careers from all of the athletic coaches that were as part of that opening bevy of employees. They touched a lot of folks. So, and the others that were named made state titles for A-League in those sports. So athletics is brought up originally, and some of them were students who are now employees who were coached under those coaches. And so they set the foundation for the knowledge of the legacy of those athletic programs. So they want to honor those folks. And that's where it's come from more than anything. And so we explain the policy, and that's how we get started. And just to be honest, you know, the actual naming portion of it, you know, I'm not a fan of it from the standpoint of it costs money to put lettering and stuff, but in the end, if you go to one of those events, it really is a boon to the school and to the staff and the community.
I went to an event this past weekend at ELSIC, and I walked into the gym, which as a board member, you have so many campuses, you hardly do that. And what was very, very interesting was someone saying, look at that jersey up there. What does that jersey mean? And having to go and Google Rashard Lewis. You know, so I get that, you know, I really do. I can see the importance of it, but I just would kind of like to see that practice expanded throughout the district so that people will, you know.
Different administrations and different boards over the years have had different opinions. It's not that we haven't had nominations, because I remember some instructional people that were nominated in previous boards and administration combos were like, no, we're not naming portions of facilities, so you don't even think about it. So that changes over time, and that's a prerogative of the board. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty popular these days. Go ahead, Ms. Bro.
Sure. So I was looking at the policy CW local, and it does mention the process of if you're soliciting for a name, that it's circulated in either it's placed in the news or either the newspaper or the A-League Communicator. Is that if we want to name the facility?
No. If you say tonight, approve this and say, go seek nominations, then the next communicator, which I think is February, March, related, will have the list of nominations we already have, and the fact that if they want to nominate somebody in the community wants to nominate another name.
For that particular facility, it's not, it doesn't open it up.
They can't bring a new one.
No, it's just these three or whatever. So if somebody wants to name a library after someone, they'd have to.
Why did you name it after that guy?
They'd have to bring it to us, and we would do this every single time with the same process.
Okay. All right.
So all we're doing is, if you approve this, we'll go out, seek nominations, and at some point, we'll bring it back to you for consideration. It's up to y'all. It's totally up to the board.
All right. Well, like I said, I wanted to have an opportunity to have a quick conversation about it, help us to understand that process, and I did. I still learned something from it. Been here 12 years, but still learned something from that process, and had an opportunity to say, it's going to be in the paper, and I'd like to still a little note. If you want to in the future do that, name a library. You see what I'm saying?
Just like this, we will, in the 20 years from now, there may be another great career that we want to add to it, and it's the Legacy Hall of Coaches at Tulsa High School.
Yeah, you just have to be careful what along you're naming hallways and classrooms and everything else, so.
You do it anyway.
We have a hard enough time anyway, exactly.
Okay, board, thank you so much, board, for your, do you have something you'd like to say, Mr. Butler?
Yes, so I wanted to know, so how is it calculated? Is it like tallied, like popular vote, or?
No, nominations are brought back to you.
Brought back to
They
us.
stand on their own.
Yeah, so.
And then we go into executive session and we make a.
No, you take a vote right.
No, we take a vote here.
Yeah.
We take a vote.
Discussion and talk about it, and then we take a vote.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
So see, thank you, that's what we needed to understand that process. These individuals brought it to us, and we're gonna approve, yes, go out and get the, other nominations if they exist.
Some districts just pick a name.
Yeah.
And go with that. There is no choice.
Yeah, some boards do that. Some boards say, yeah, this is what it's gonna be, but we're not that board, so.
My question, what is the cost? I know you mentioned cost-wise, and with all what's the cost to signage and all this, and is there a cost?
I'd estimate $800. I don't know. The lettering is not, it's not that much. I was just saying, from the standpoint of, when it starts going overboard and we're naming everything, but.
Well, but the fact of, as you said before, when a building already exists and you're putting names on it, that's where the costs come in, because you're trying to differentiate the difference. But, Mr. Chambers, I was just saying, some people, when they do that naming, they pay for that signage, just like we talked about.
Yeah, this would be that way. What we've done in the past is we put a little metal lettering on the outside of the facility, if there's an outside entry like a gymnasium, and then on the inside, we'll have some vinyl lettering or paint on the wall, on the gym, so it's not like statuesque, but I just wanted to say that it's not.
Something to identify it.
It's not just calling it that, we actually put the name on there so people know what it is, and then that goes in the history of the school.
So you're asking for approval for these three particular?
Yes, and so.
We seek nominations on these three particular facilities.
So, if there are no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion. I move to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by myself and second by Ms. Butler. All in favor of item 612? Thank you so very much, board. Thank you so much, Mr. Woods, for indulging me there. So at this time, we're going to have the report on risk load analysis. And it's going to be exciting because we have heard about this for about 6 weeks. We can't wait.
Told you, Dee, told you.
So let me just tell you a little bit about Dee Carter. Dee is a consultant for both Casey, and, she comes from the world of education and has lived in the world of accountability, working very closely with accountability people like Madeline and think tanks all over Texas. So she does bring a wealth of knowledge, and we're just so excited that she did run this risk load analysis for her. So we know that she's got some background on it, so without further ado, I'm going to bring up Dee Carter.
Good evening, President Williams, trustees, Superintendent Chambers. Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk about this innovative work that we started with AISD last month. It's called a risk load analysis, but really it's a different way to look at students' educational needs. It's a different way for school leaders to allocate resources. And when we talk about allocating resources, we're talking about a different way of allocating people, money, materials, and time. Because as you are well aware, leaders at every level of the school system are being challenged to think and act differently to successfully address the effects of income inequality and educational difficulties on academic performance. When you look, and the data we used is from 2017, 18, and the district provided us with most of the data we'll be talking about. You can look at the percent of economically disadvantaged students enrolled across the campuses, ranging from 59% to 93%. And when we talk about a risk load analysis, we're really talking about poverty is not just a lack of money. We're expanding the definition of poverty. We're expanding the definition of educationally disadvantaged. It's not an excuse for poor teaching or poor school performance. It does, however, serve as a shorthand for a lack of educational experiences. The most readily available and consistent operational definition, a long-standing proxy for educationally disadvantaged, is free and reduced price meals. Who turns in their form? Right? And that's known as economically disadvantaged. But in my classroom, in my 8th grade math classroom, I could have a student who qualified and turned in their form. In fact, I did, a student who was living week to week in a car with her mom. And then I had another student who turned in that same form, whose mom stayed at home and chose to stay at home, and dad was working blue-collar construction. They both turned in the form for free and reduced price meals, but in terms of educationally disadvantaged, there's just a vast difference that is not captured just by turning in that form. So when we look at So when we talk about a risk load analysis, it's really, we ask the question, what's in our students' data backpack? What do they bring with them to school every day? Think of a clear backpack. What are they bringing with them? If you look in your notebook, you should have a notebook. If you look in your notebook on page 46, you'll see that we have 26 different factors, risk loads. And this risk load equals this degree of educational difficulty. And on page 46, some of the different factors that you'll see you may not be familiar with. If you look at factor number 3, it's called persistently disadvantaged students. The University of Indiana has done some research around persistently disadvantaged students, which means students who repeatedly qualify year after year for free lunch, not reduced lunch, for free lunch. And the research has shown those students who are persistently disadvantaged to be up to 3 grade levels behind their peers. So that's one of the factors we look at. All 26 factors are from the educational research, and they're correlated to their impact on students' performance and progress and engagement. We also look at, if you'll look at factor number 12, we look for student chronic absenteeism. And notice the definition there. The definition is students who are absent for any reason. Even if they're participating in extracurricular activities, we're looking for absenteeism. Not for funding, but for instructional purposes. Because school-dependent students, right, may need that consistent daily instruction. We also look at teacher attendance, teacher absenteeism. Again, absent for any reason. And then if you look at the bottom section, the neighborhood factors, those are based on census data. Those are the factors within the student's neighborhood based on their home address. So these 26 factors are combined to create risk loads. In your binder, if you look beginning on page 7, we talk about observations and initial findings. And because there's so many campuses here in A-League, we have secondary campus observations and findings and elementary observation and findings. And I won't go through all of them, we just highlighted a few here for But in the secondary campuses, the most commonly occurring student demographic factor were percentages of persistently disadvantaged students, and then the next most frequent was the number of languages spoken. In the elementary, looking at those student demographic risk factors, the most common were percentages of ELL students, and the next most frequent were the percentages of students who qualify for free lunch. When you look at school-based risk factors, on page 46, that chart, the school-based risk factors in the center, for secondary campuses, the most commonly occurring was student suspensions, and the next most common was student chronic absenteeism. And then for elementary, the most commonly occurring school-based risk factors were counselor to student ratios, and the second most common factor was teacher absenteeism and teacher turnover. We also noted in the report that there were 3 high schools and 1 middle school that had a combination of these school factors. They had high rates of student suspensions, student chronic absenteeism, and teacher absenteeism. So really we're trying to get at who is teaching whom. Who is teaching whom? And in elementary, we noted there were 2 intermediate schools that had comparatively high rates of student suspensions and teacher absenteeism, and 4 elementary schools have the highest level of risk associated with teacher absenteeism. And I'll show you what that looks like on a heat map. But first, let's look at the scatter plot. So when we take all the campuses and we look at student suspensions, and this is from the 17-18 school year, when you look at the student suspensions, it ranges from 0 to 56% of students being suspended across the campuses. When you look at student chronic absenteeism, and again, this is for any reason, student chronic absenteeism ranges from 2% to 58%. And then when you look at teacher absenteeism across the campuses, it ranges from 38% to 98%. And what we talk about here is typically we've done risk load analysis for 15 different districts. When we talk about teacher absenteeism, when the district disaggregates the data, what they see typically is it has to do with professional development. Sometimes it's things we do to ourselves as far as pulling teachers out for professional development. All right? So again, our question that we're answering or trying to answer is who is teaching whom? Who's at the front of the classroom and who's in the classroom? When you look at the census data, the neighborhood factors, the most commonly occurring neighborhood factor among the secondary campuses were single-parent households, adults having no more than a high school diploma, and students residing in low-income housing. And in elementary, the most common neighborhood risk factor was also adults not having more than a high school diploma, and low percentages of home ownership. That shows mobility, right? In the census data, it shows mobility. So when we take those factors, and I'll show you what it looks like in a heat map, but we take those factors across the campuses, and we look and count how many of those risk factors are there. And it ranged from a risk factor of 1, a campus has a risk load of 1, up to a campus that has a risk load of 19. There was only 26 risk factors, and a couple of your campuses are at 19, 18, and 17. So again, a risk load analysis makes it clear that schools may have the similar levels of free and reduced price meals, but they have very different challenges. We also like to remind people that risk loads do not predetermine performance. So when you look at it from an accountability perspective, you can see, and I'll way over here, but the campus with a risk load of 1 received a B this past year in the accountability system, but so did the campus with a risk load of 19. You can see one of the campuses with a risk load of 8 received an F in the accountability system. Campus with a risk load of 17 did as well. And then a C, a 9, and a 14. So risk loads do not predetermine performance. We also look at intensity. And if you look on page 15 in your notebook, just talk about a heat map. Talk about this visualization of the risk factors. And just really quickly, you'll see across the top, the student demographic factors, and in the orange section of the school factors, and the gray is the neighborhood factors. But the color coding comes from the comparing of campuses to the district. And green means there's less risk all the way to red, which is more risk. The intense red is 2 standard deviations above the average. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5. The darker the red, the farther away, the more risk it is in that particular factor. And then on the far right side, we put the STAR performance data for the 2018. So you can see how the performance of those campuses for achievement at needs grade level and growth compares to the state. And then you can see the heat map. Now in your notebook, you have both heat maps with numbers and without. But again, it expands the definition from beyond free and reduced price meals to looking at factors and challenges within those schools that are not readily apparent if all you're doing is looking at one column of numbers. On page 23, there's some scatter plots that you may be interested in. They're 3-dimensional scatter plots, meaning you can see the risk factors and you can see the percent of economically disadvantaged students that are enrolled at those campuses, and you can also see the overall performance score from the accountability system. And then we've also included control charts on page 25. But I'm going to stop there and see if you guys have any questions. Or thoughts?
So going back to a couple of slides on your map where you had plots for the, going back on the slide where you have plots for the campuses and these campuses for that one. So that if they would have gotten a grade this year or last year.
Yes, I mean how they received the numeric score.
Right.
We just put in the grade that would be associated with that numeric score from TEA. And you can see that on your heat maps as well. On page 25, you can see those, the campus name, and the score from the 2018 accountability system.
Okay.
I know we've had a conversation where we're doing accountability and you know, you look at the numbers and you look at a campus that's an F or whatever, and on paper, it looks like an F, it has all this stuff, but you go visit a campus and it doesn't look like that. It's an A or a B, and it's doing some really good things out there. So the numbers don't always, in my opinion, represent what's really happening on there. It's numbers. You know, and I know HD, this is kind of another, I don't think HD and I have talked about, you know, kids. You know, I mean, I'm always baffled to see, you know, kids that have, you know, not talking about just the elite, but just kids that are valedictorians. You know, you look at it, well, they're, you know, both parents are working, they both of them have, you know, PhDs, they have everything given, you know, have availability to them, you know, and they're barely graduating. Then you get a child that's gone through so many, lost a parent, has been an immigrant or, you know, whatever, and don't have the funds, and they got 4.7 GPA, you know, and it's like, how do you can't really can't put your finger on it of what's the right, you know what I'm saying, I don't know, what's the right recipe, you know, to do that, and so I just.
So risk load, that's a great analogy. The risk loads are trying to help you get at that recipe by looking at a variety of factors that aren't readily available for you to see. Whenever we talk to principals, it doesn't matter which district we've been in. When the principals look at their risk loads, right? They look at their individual risk loads and they go, we always hear this comment, I knew that. I knew that in my gut about my kids, but I never had the data to support that, right? And now, you know, some campuses, some districts make different staffing decisions based on risk loads. I know a peer district close to you has done just that. They used to have, one of those straight staffing formulas. Not saying you have to do it, I'm just telling you what they did using their risk load data. They could support not following those straight staffing guidelines because there were some campuses with very high risk loads where they needed lower class sizes. They needed different types of instructional support than a campus down here with low risk loads. And they were able to shift, again, people, money, materials, time, based on the needs for that particular campus. We have another campus who used the risk load data to apply for some mental health grants, right? And we're able to deploy some social workers, not to every campus, but to the high risk load campuses that needed additional support. Right? So those are just a couple of examples that we hear back from superintendents and staff as to how they're using risk loads.
One thing, Mr. Marino, that goes to your question, and it's a deeper conversation than just risk loads, but it's the data being used to determine accountability in Texas right now. So I don't want to get into the testing conversation, but if we were to ever see a more robust accountability system that takes into account some of the things you witness when you walk into a campus, that makes you say, this doesn't look like a failing campus. This doesn't feel like a failing. These kids are not acting like, it's because that's not measured in accountability. And so it's kind of it's misleading. But if you're basing it on test scores, then this is what we have right now, and we'll do the best we can with test results and attempt to make a more meaningful accountability system that takes into consideration some of those other things.
It's like graduation rates in the past where something like this, and people decide they want to move into a neighborhood or a community based on graduation rates and the success of that. And they look and say, oh, you got a graduation rate, I'm not going to move into there. But, you look at the students, they're succeeding, they're going on to a higher level, they're going to military, they're working, they're, so forth, and have to, go beyond the numbers and really what's really.
The risk loads tell you about the child. They paint a better picture than what we know right now. What they're facing. What doesn't tell you how they're performing is the current accountability system. In my opinion, that's the huge gap that would even make what Dee's describing even more powerful. So.
I'm sorry, I'm just shocked on how we'd have maybe, I would have thought that most of our campuses would have been like equal across, like 4 teams across or something across, but to have one, campuses, like 2 or 3 of them that have just one factor, and we've been to most of the campuses, and I'm really shocked to see, I'd like to know what those 2 or 3 campuses are that only have one factor.
It shows you on your heat map in your binder. It shows you the campus name and then the total risk load.
I like to have somebody show me I'm not big into these numbers.
Any shade of pink, any shade of red is counted as a risk load factor. Right. So when you look at your heat maps, any shade of red will count. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to go back to the absentee information.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the denominator that you're using to determine that percentage? What are we basing that on? Is it like students who are absent from 0 to 5 days, 5 to 15 days, more than 18 days?
Right, so I'm just going to refer you back because you'll get this question as well. If you look back on page 45, I give you the definition. And then we ask the district to send us that data. So when you look at student chronic absenteeism, it's the percentage of students who miss 18 or more days of school for any reason.
And that's what these percentages are based on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it says for any reason. So did you find that there's like a similarity between these campuses that have high absenteeism and high suspensions?
We did, and you'll see when you look on those heat maps, you can see at a glance, and that was part of our observation and findings, is there were 3 high schools and a couple of intermediates that had high suspensions, high chronic absenteeism. And
for students and teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
But the absenteeism for teachers, not necessarily just being out sick or taking a personal day, it can be pulled away for personal development.
That's
You know,
correct.
so I know, I'm kind of going, you know, sometimes we think, oh, let's give them some more training, but it's actually, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Yes, you're helping them, but then you're also hurting the classroom.
You have that, I had, not in this district, but in another district, I had two principals sitting side by side, and they both had very similar teacher absenteeism rates, and principals take that to heart. And then they were comparing, as they do, comparing their performance. And one principal said, well, my campus is doing fine, and the other one said, I'm not, right? And then we looked at their teacher absenteeism rates, which were similar as well. And then I said, but now look at your total risk factors. One campus had very high risk loads, right? And I said, your students need the best professional in front of them every day. They're what we call school-dependent kids. At this other campus, they were low risk loads. Even though teachers were out for any reason about the same, low risk loads, right? This campus wasn't, those students weren't as dependent upon that teacher and that instruction, it appeared, right, than this one was. Again, that's information you get when you dig a little bit deeper in a risk load analysis, right?
Ms. Butler?
So my question is, thank you for the data. It is very eye-opening, and it does explain a lot of things that you see in our communities if you drive around and are in different places where you see what's going on, right? My question is, have you ever looked at it over a period of time? Have you ever done a snapshot where you've done like a 5-year study and looked and been able to see that this is a continuing issue and not just maybe like a one-time snapshot kind of thing that's happening, right? Because obviously there's new accountability ratings are something that's very new, but are these campuses struggling over a period of time? Are we seeing the same risk load factors? So when I was looking at the map a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that I could see in certain neighborhoods where the crime was higher, all these other things that, you know, will affect kids' learning. I noticed that your data supported that. So I was just curious, had y'all ever looked at it from a multiple?
Right, so we've been running risk load analysis in Texas now. We've just begun our 4th year. We have 2 districts that partner with us to do a risk load analysis every year, right? And in those particular 2 districts, we've seen some things change, right, in the neighborhoods as they've shifted boundaries for their schools, right? That's one change. But then when you get to the school-related factors, because that's one conversation we have when we talk to principals and staff, is, you know, really look at what's within your circle of control. And looking at those school factors, if you can reduce student chronic absenteeism or reduce how teachers are handling professional development. That's one thing within their control. So yes, for those 2 particular districts, we've seen that, but we haven't done it in over 5 years. But just to let you know, we also provide all this data to Natalie, and so she has it, and she can put in a variety of other factors that you may feel are important that aren't covered in these 26 factors here. Or instead of STAR results, you might want to use early literacy results. So she has that data and can do some different things with it as well.
Awesome. So my other thing that I noticed was that you didn't use like mobility as one of the first and second high-risk things when you were looking at comparing like the elementary to secondary. So was that not one of the, because obviously that wasn't one of the top factors, but in our district, it's about 25%.
Yeah, it's on your page 45. It's factor number 5. We did look at non-continuously enrolled, but it did not appear as some of those top factors, right, as the most commonly found factor. Is it in there? Absolutely. And you can see the effect on those heat maps at some of those campuses.
Right.
But overall, when we're looking at common factors for the observation and findings, it was not in the top 2 or 3 for the whole district, right? All the campuses.
Thank you.
Great question.
Okay, so my question would be, risk load, here's how I interpret it, that it's being utilized instead of like testing standards, so to speak. Or not, well, that's just, let me give you my interpretation. Because I've been hearing the song Risk Load, and I've been trying to figure out where does that fit into district. It's something new, it's innovative, okay? So, and trying to understand in what areas. I heard you state that there are some districts who change their staffing because of risk loads. So how do they, I'm trying to paint a picture on how do they utilize that data and what's so different about the data that they already have that makes this unique.
So one example they've given me, right, these are anecdotal stories they give me, is at the beginning of the school year, you know how, well, in most districts that I've worked in, you have to shuffle teachers around at the beginning of the year to balance your class loads. Right? In that particular district, telling me the story how they use their data, they made an intentional decision they would not move teachers from high-risk load campuses. They wanted the smaller class sizes at the high-risk load campuses, and they would move teachers from other campuses with lower risk loads to help staff and equalize class loads. That's just one example that they've given me.
So I guess when I said instead of using testing standards, by standards, when a school year begins, a principal began looking at those testing standards. So their ability to look at risk loads is based upon what? And I you know, again, this is new. So I guess by the district saying, hey, we now have an individual or a group that's can bring you risk loads, so you're going to look at your risk load factors. Then they are saying, oh, yes, I agree with that. Let me, you know, revamp my schedule according to that. Let me place programs in schools because of risk load factors. You know, I'm kind of hitting in the dark here. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're saying, okay, so what? Like, what do we?
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah, what do we do with this?
What's next?
And that's the question that we're, I mean, we haven't, as a council, we've talked about it, but we didn't get too far down the road because of needing to have this conversation with you guys.
And
one of the,
I don't mean to interrupt, and D, it's not the fact that I don't think that this is important. It is greatly important. I think every one of us here are saying, just what we thought, you know, but how to take this data and now use it, right. There is a great concern that people will rely upon this and what happens with testing as well, because at the end of the day, the state still has the, you know, a demand on us that has no conversation about risk load.
So I'll let Ava chime in with this, but the question, I mean, some of the obvious responses to that would be exactly what Dee said. Some of it's staffing, because a lot of times we use formulas that we've always had, and by opening our eyes to other issues, particularly the teacher absenteeism, and I've talked about this for a couple of months now about self-inflicted wounds, if you will, with us making decisions that the teachers have no control over, and we ask them to do this and to do that. And while there's a place for PD during the school day, I have a hard time with people telling me the most important factor, other than a parent and a child's education as a teacher. I have a hard time saying, well, it's there except for these reasons, we're going to pull that teacher out in front of the classroom. So we got to, in my opinion, we have to take a good hard look at what we're doing in that regard. But the ways in which to use this data, I mean, we're just beginning to explore what we would do. I just think it's, for the first time at least, and since I've been around, this has actually given us a better picture of what's happening at a school and ways in which we can get in front of that or react to it in ways which we have not. Ava, help me.
Yes, and before we left for a winter break, we did engage teachers to share this information, specific campus information to each principal. And so they began, as they looked at their specific campus information, you know, the question was, what factors do we have control of? You know, what is the data saying about my campus? And so we definitely, one of the things that just jumped out was, like Mr. Chambers and the Senate, is, you know, the professional development, teacher absenteeism. So we started engaging in conversations on things that we might do differently. What actions might I take based on my campus-specific data? And so that's the questions that principals were pondering right before we left. And so I know that there were lots of suggestions and thoughts floating around as to what they may do. We plan to continue and pick up the conversation with our principals this spring because it was new to them as well. But I can tell you it was extremely well received. They really, had some, as they sat in groups, because they were seated in 4s and 6s, and they were willing to share their information with one another, looking at, well, how many risk factors do you have? And, this type of thing I had, wow, let's talk about these things. So it definitely has sparked a much needed conversation, and we're thinking through what we're going to do now as a result of the information that's been provided. So we certainly plan to come back and, kind of report back on some of the actions that we do want to take, and we want to engage the board, because there may be some things that you have to take a look at as you get a chance to, I know the binders, there's a lot of information there, but as you get a chance to read through that information, if you have questions, please shoot them to Mr. Chambers, myself, Charles, so that because we want to continue this conversation. It's good information, good data.
Yeah, I was thinking too, Dee, that, for how difficult is it for districts to process both, because you have the old hat that says everything is driven by the accountability data. I have to get those students, raise the bar on that. Where you have someone who is from that community and they know for a fact that there's a high rate of unemployment, so therefore the engagement of parents and blah, blah, blah. They know that that's there, so you're going to have that duality going on, and I think that's what I'm kind of concerned with. I like the fact that you do have something else you can talk about, but it's going to take a minute to be able to convince the world, so to speak.
You're absolutely correct. On page 10, just when you get there, we've also included just a few points of discussion and potential uses for the data based on what we saw. For example, starting on page 10 and then over to 11, the district may want to consider, a review for the process for student suspensions. There may be something at a campus about the process for suspensions. At least when, in my middle school, when you suspend a kid for 3 days, they take 5. That adds to, student absenteeism. So we do have just a few high-level suggestions on how the data can be used, but it's most valuable in the conversations that Mr. Chambers and Ava are talking about.
I am still excited. I mean, when you get something brand new, you want to see how this toy really works, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I like the opportunity of having something else to go on.
If I can make a comment or maybe have some discussion more, a quick moment with it. I don't know, I'm looking at this data and I'm looking at it, and we've had the conversation with the whole accountability and the scores and the grades and stuff, and I keep asking what's next, what are we going to do different, think outside the box, we've got to think something differently, and I know the areas who's probably, already saying this all the time, but when I look at this as a board member, as a non-educator board member, looking at this as a district, and looking at all the campuses, and I see this, and I go, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I know we have conversations, but we haven't really dug deep on the campus level or got reports from a campus level. What's different? If I'm a principal and I'm a leader at a campus, and I get this book and I have my my risk factors for my campus, and I look at these kids and say, okay, this is last year's. Okay, well, last year we dealt with Harvey, and we had displacement, people moving, and so forth. So is it really totally accurate data because of the year moved? 10 years ago, we had the Katrina and all that. We had influx of evacuees and so forth. So how accurate is this? Mr. Woods brings to us every month, every year of mobility. Campus, part is this and that, so that changes. So if I'm a principal, I look at it and say, well, how accurate is this data that I'm getting? Is this last year's data, or is it current what's happening in my campus? So if you can answer that question about the data.
Along those lines, MIS generated the data from all of our systems and gave it to Dee, and she ran it through their analysis to come up with this report. So when the principals were given the data, they can then translate those areas of focus, potential focus, that obviously rose to the top from 17, 18 data and say, okay, look at it now, those particular factors again this year in our school, or it may be a different principal at that school, or a different, yeah, the staff has changed dramatically. One of the things that we can do over time, like the question from Ms. Butler, is we can lay this together and say, are there patterns that are within our control or outside of our control? And then what are the factors that every one of those campuses are doing about it? And one of them is staffing. One of them is absenteeism, the importance we put on it. Years ago, we did measures to try and curb absenteeism of teachers by giving them an incentive to not take any absenteeism. There's all kinds of ideas, but ultimately, like she said, one thing we can do is make sure we don't schedule professional development to where we're shooting ourselves in the foot. The principals are doing that right now to make sure, okay, for the rest of this year, we're not going to fall down that hole again.
Right, I know we're doing things where we're like well docked, they can go to the nurse's office and they can call their doctor or video and do this and not have to leave the campus, and they can, those kind of things to prevent, the absenteeism. So, but my question is, I guess I want to bring to the board, because I know this is a meeting of the board, so forth, is a thing, and I think I had a discussion with HD, is in the past board, and nothing to take away from previous board or board members. I know this is live on video and broadcast, so I don't want to get a phone call from a previous board member, but it's not discrediting anything that's happened. But this is currently the way we are now. And I know in the past, as a board, the ideas that have come through is that we have reports, things generated this way. And the council and the superintendent in the past have kind of get all the stuff together and let's discuss with the board and let's have it. And yeah, we do have educators that are on the board, but not educators with an A-leaf and do that. So I'm looking and I'm asking, and I'm not sure how y'all feel about this, is for the superintendent, for y'all to come back with some ideas, some thoughts, and some changes. Not necessarily, well, let's go discuss this for the next year and a half and figure out what the board likes. And then by that time, we have new board members, and now we're back to square zero again, and we're still discussing to do this. So I would like, and in the past, it has been that way, right? I think actually we had those discussions, is had to kind of wait till the board. And if the board in the past said, no, you need to wait till we give you an answer, and then we move forward. If that makes, and I'm throwing out some key issues for us as a group.
I understand, and let me go back to what our, what our agenda is, and this, we're not trying to make a decision tonight, but here's the one thing. You made a good statement, and that statement was the fact of what administration does. I've heard at least 5 times already, administration is looking at professional developments, and this conversation about reducing professional developments. To my knowledge, I had no idea we were doing professional developments in the middle of a day that was denying teachers, students access to their teachers. So I'm having a little problem trying to focus and digest that thought. When I look at risk load factors, and it says something about the education, levels of education, what more could we do if we want to talk about some things that are within our control? Let's look at what it is that we're doing in our parent liaison centers. Are we doing enough in those areas? There are other areas, but the one thing that I've heard so far was about professional developments and cutting them back. Maybe that is the most easiest thing to do, but it's not the thing that I see this data for. I see this data, as you said, this is about children, the lives and the environments that they're in. And yes, they do need their teachers. Yes, they do. They need professional teachers, and that teachers, some of them are dependent upon them. But at the same time, some of those teachers need those professional developments. But as I said, I did not think that we were doing professional developments in the middle of the day. I thought that we had specialized days set aside for professional developments. So for me, as a board member, I agree with you. I'm not seeing that as a priority when you're bringing this information. Do you understand, Ms. Butler? There are some things, like you said, in the community, we know that, yes, we agree those risk load factors are there. But as you're saying, that conversation is going on without the board. We need a moment to be able to digest and say, what if, as well.
One of the things in the past is we've always had, it's kind of like, I know it's not talking about this, but in raises, if we can't give a raise to everybody, nobody's going to get a raise. Same thing, we always go, sometimes get like a brush and we paint every single campus the same way,
Right.
in doing that.
Right.
Versus, okay, let's look at one campus and what do they need in regards to, their risk factors, and do we need to, pay these teachers a little bit more, to get these experienced teachers and keep them there and not move them at the beginning of the year to somewhere else? Or do we need, this other one's doing okay because they have the community involvement, the parent involvement, and they have lower factors? I like for, to break down each campus and see what each campus does and hear from those administrators. And, this is what I want to do at my campuses. This is what I'm going to do. If you give me opportunity to make my campus successful. And it could be right next door to each other and have very similar kids, but they may have different factors. One's going to be 19, one's going to be 2, and staff is going to be different. So, first I try thinking of just painting everything with a brush. Let's get down to it and change our way of thinking, and allowing our superintendent
And that's the purpose, that's the purpose of this conversation. You're dead on. So it's not only new to you, it's relatively new to us. Heck, it's new to Texas. 4 years is not a long time to filter things out as complicated as this. The whole PD issue, Ms. Williams, that's just kind of the low-hanging fruit. I don't mean to imply that we've got teachers out of the class 5 days a week in PD.
Right.
We have all kinds of PD on the weekends and after school and in the evenings, but there is some things that we can do to improve that so that we're not pulling as many as we do out.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the risk factors and I see things like teacher turnover rate, which is what the board talks about quite a bit. So we like to know how does the risk load factors impact teacher turnover rates in certain schools. But we need a moment for us to be able to say, as a board, we know that administration, you guys are the experts. So you guys have information. At the end of the day, we're the ones that represent the community who wants to know. So I think, there's some things here that we can begin to look at and have more discussion on. So Dee, thank you so very much. I didn't want to make you a part of this family conversation.
I wanted to just say one story, your parent liaison question, just one story, and then I'll step away. Again, another district, elementary campus, looking at their student attendance, right? And elementary kids, are dependent upon parents or school buses to get them there. So they were concerned with their chronic absenteeism of their kids. They, looking at the risk load data for the first time, that particular principal started trying to ask the kids, why are you not coming to school? Found out there was, in their minds, the students' minds, there was some bullying going on, and they didn't have clean clothes. They didn't want to come to school. So instead of hiring a new reading teacher, they put in a couple of washing machines and invited the parents and the guardians to come up, right? Wash the clothes, have a little family literacy while they're there. And for that campus, in that situation, with those risk loads and that community, it worked for them. It don't work for everybody.
Right.
But that was something that they felt like was in their circle of influence, and it works for them. So I just wanted to leave that with you as
You say the best for last.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you again for the opportunity. Oh, yes, ma'am.
And this is probably directed more at Mr. Chambers than at you, and I thank you for your presentation. When we're looking at budgeting for the year after next, is differentiated funding based on risk factors something that has been done anywhere, or is something that's reasonable, or?
There have been districts who have, at the local level, who have made staffing decisions, mature resources and budgeting decisions based on risk loads. One of them just south of us. So yes, there's districts that have a history of that for a couple of years.
I'm thinking about things like if you have 7 risk factors and one of them is number 6, and I don't even know what that risk factor is right now. If you have a risk load that includes number 6, then you get an extra $50 per student to address that risk. That sounds complicated to me, and the budget's already complex.
There's a lot of things we can do to process it, and back to Mr. Marino's question about the reliability of the data from year to year in a pretty mobile district. That's something we're going to have to look at. I would say probably the continuously enrolled, if it's not in the top 2 or 3, it's probably in the top 5. So those are things that we're gonna have to kind of wrestle with, so that but each year you have to look at it, because it's gonna change from year to, it potentially is gonna change from year to year, campus to
But I'm sure
campus.
Charles would give us the right data, monthly changes. I'm sure that's what
He likes looking at those numbers in his sleep.
So, anyway, so we will be bringing lots of information, and yeah, whether we turn a school family liaison center into a laundromat, or whether we turn it into something that meets the need of that's the type of thinking, and it's a different way of thinking, no question about it.
I'm not saying this is something that we should do, but I just give an example. I know when the last conference we went to, I think it was in Austin or wherever it was, there was one campus in Mansfield, one district, and they were going through some issues and so forth. And part of what they do is on their workshop is they actually, each whatever, how they did it, the campus principals came out and presented. And it was like, that was their day. It was talking about what they did differently at that. Not that we would go in their day-to-day business and tell them how to run their campus or anything, but we would know. And so then the next month we would see a separate campus, and then we could see what they're doing differently, so that we can understand how the campuses are using their risk and making something different, like getting a wash machine or something for that campus. Versus, well, that's not going to work for the next campus, and they have different things. So that when the community members do ask us, what are y'all doing differently? We're like, well, this campus we're doing this campus we're doing this. We're not painting everybody with a brush. We're identical. Same like we don't educate every child the same way. Right. Same thing. So those are just some thoughts. I don't know if you're familiar with Mansfield, or if they use these.
They may use their own,
internal factors.
they may have created their own set of risk factors.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, board, for your good discussion on that, and the question has been asked, will we be having more conversations? I'm pretty sure Mr. Chambers will bring more into board notes, so the board will decide when we will be bringing this up.
Much more.
Again.
Can y'all break this into like levels for non?
But of course, Steve can.
Like paramedic level kind of stuff, I don't know.
We will. Risk loads for dummies, risk loads for...
Okay, board, we're at item number 8, consider approval of annual financial compliance report for the year ending to August 31st, 2018. Okay, Grace, I'm gonna have to ask you, since you fall under Mr. Wood's department, your presentation is how long?
16 slides.
Okay. I'll let you go too, Grace. Thank you.
I will try to go fast.
Take your time, Grace. You're good.
First, we will look at the general fund, statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balance for 2017-18. For 2018, general fund revenues increased $7.6 million compared to 2016-17, mainly in local property tax revenues due to a 4% increase in property value. Property tax provided 39% of total revenues, while the state provided 57%. General fund expenditure decreased to $2.9 million, less than 1% from prior year. The difference between the summer projection and final results, the summer projection of fund balance during the budget process and final results was about $5.2 million. The difference between projection and final result was due to the reclassification of expenditure from general fund to the special revenue fund for the grants received from Texas education agencies at the year end. The impact of 2% pay increase was offset by the decrease in positions due to the decline in enrollment. The food service fund balance at the end of 2017-18 was $5.5 million. The decrease of $1.2 million in fund balance from prior year was mainly related to the kitchen set up at the new Center for Advanced Leaders. At the end of 2018,
The fund balance was kept below 3 months of average school service expenditure as required by the National School Lunch Program. The decrease in enrollment and the school closure due to bad weather contribute to the decrease in local and federal revenues. The debt service fund had a ending fund balance of $20.3 million. That is reserved for payment of debt service. $17.4 million of it is in a reserve account to pay off the QSAP bonds in 2024 and 27. The $4.3 million increase in local property tax revenue was due to the 2.5 cents increase in the debt service tax rate and the 4% increase in property value. Even though the tax rate was increased by 2.5 cents, it is still below the estimated tax rate in the 2015 bond referendum projection. Next, we will look at revenue by source for governmental funds, which include the general fund, special revenue fund, debt service fund, and capital project fund. Property tax totaling $197 million, provided 37% of the total revenue. The increase of $6 million in federal revenues was related to that 2 hurricane grants received from Texas Education Agency at the year end. Next, we will look at the expenditure by function for governmental funds. The total governmental funds expenditure decreased by $19 million or 3% from 2016-17. For 2017-18, the construction cost ratio was 63.4%. Administrative cost ratio was 0.0448, which was continuously lower than the state standard for district of our size. As of August 31st, 2018, general fund had an ending fund balance of $94 million. $71.8 million is available for spending at district discretion. That unassigned fund balance of $71.8 million represents 17% of the general fund expenditure. It is within the range recommended by Texas Education Agency. This chart shows the comparison with area school district for 2016-17 because the 17-18 data is not available yet. As of August 31st, 2017, general fund had $92 million in total fund balance, or 21% of the general fund expenditure. General fund ended with $94 million, or 22% of the general fund expenditure at the end of 2017-18, a slight increase from prior year. At this time, I will turn to Ms. Sarah Sarah from Independent Auditor to discuss the single audit results.
President Williams, members of the board, and Mr. Chambers, thank you for allowing me to present the results of the fiscal year 2018 audit of the financial statements as well as the single audit. Our audit was conducted in accordance with government auditing standards, which is required by the Texas Education Agency, and any time that an entity spends more than $750,000 in federal funding. We have issued an unmodified reporting opinion, and it is the highest level of assurance that we can provide on any set of financial statements. And that indicates that the public, rating agencies, the Texas Education Agency, and any other regulatory body can rely on the numbers presented within the comprehensive annual financial report. In addition to the financial statement opinion, we also look at your federal programs,
because the district did spend more than $750,000. In fact, you all spent $67 million in federal awards. We tested approximately 4 major federal programs, including the Child Nutrition Fund, and we are issuing a clean opinion on those 4 major federal programs as well, with no findings or reduction in cost, nor any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, over those federal programs. Any questions for me?
What's the board? Thank you.
Maybe if there are any questions or comments.
Have you gotten the same rating approval for the last 12 years, Grace? Every year? Yeah.
If not,
Action.
yeah, at this time, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees of Alief Independent District approve the audit report for the year ending August 31st, 2018. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
It's been moved by Ms. Butler. Second?
I'll second it.
It's been second by Ms. Key. All in favor of accepting the motion? Let the record show it's 5-0. 2 board members are absent. Thank you so much, Grace and Ms. Whitney Penn. No, she gets that all the time. Thank you so very much. Thanks for your work and your efforts. We're moving on to item number 9, and I'm pretty sure that was not in there. Item number 9, approval of the ordinance stating that the board reviewed the investment policy. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm having trouble carrying fast. I continue to try to get this letter.
No, go. You're good. You're good. You're good. I know Grace has been with us all day, and I was just thinking of.
Okay. I'm going to direct our annual investment review this morning. Board policies were developed under the framework of the Public Funds Investment Act. We have 2 policies that guide our investment activities, CDA local and CDA legal, and at this time there's no changes required. This annual review is a summary of the quarterly reports that are presented to the board. The quarterly reports are internal controls are reviewed annually by our auditors as part of our annual audit report. The Public Funds Investment Act requires 10 years of applicable training every 2 years for our district investment officer, and our investment officer, Deanna Lynn, has obtained this training. We have 4 investment objectives. The first objective is to ensure the preservation and safety of principal. We must ensure that investments do not result in principal loss and public funds. The second is liquidity. We need to maintain sufficient liquidity to meet our cash flows. And the third is yield. We get the highest yield possible in the market, but making sure we maintain our first 2 objectives. And the final objective is diversity. We do this by investing our money in 3 different investment pools, and when the cash flows come in, we invest in government agencies with different government securities with different agencies, and also in small title blocks. This is a summary of our total portfolio at December 31st. We had $212.7 million, $9.3 million is in our bank cross, and the combined in our pools is $169.2 million, that's Technologic and Lone Star, $200,000 in CDs, and $34 million in agency notes. This is just a graphic in the previous slide. As you can see, the graph on the left is 79.5% is in the pools, and the graph on the right just shows you the breakdown between those 3 pools. We're very fortunate in Texas to have multiple stable, highly rated pools that we can utilize. This is a comparison of our portfolio by fund as December 31st, 2018 compared to the prior year. And at $212 million, we have $144.8 million in the general fund. And as you know, we have to account for our money in separate funds because each fund has a unique purpose. In the general fund, although that balance at the end of the year was $144.8 million, those balances fluctuate significantly during the year. In August, balances usually get to about $50 to $60 million before we start receiving our state aid, and then in September and then December they do prior to getting tax receipts. And the low balance of 50 to 60 million is about 12% of our budgeted expenditures and approximately 1.5 months of reserve. The debt service fund is legally restricted to state debt that's already been issued. That balance of 22 million will go up a little as tax receipts come in, but then it will be significantly reduced when we make our $27 million debt payment in February. The construction funds include proceeds from debt that's already been issued, and that money is already allocated to various projects throughout the district. The food service funds are restricted for operations in the food service department, and those insurance funds are used to pay claims of our self-funded insurance programs for health insurance and workers' comp. And as you saw on the previous slides, we have almost 80% of our money invested in the 3 investment pools we use, Textile, Logic, and Lone Star. And these 3 pools offer a safe, efficient, and liquid investment alternative for us to use. And also, all 3 of these pools are rated AAA by Standard & Poor's. This is a summary of the rates that we earned on our pools over the past year. They started a little over 1%, and they steadily rose during the year to an average of 1.98%, and that's almost a full percentage point higher than the average last year of 1.04%. Whenever we're considering purchasing agency securities, we get quotes from all of our brokers and evaluate their offers to see what best fits our portfolio needs. And all the brokers on here we've used before, except for Phil Harding and Brandon James. We're hoping to add them this year. Phil has 13 years of experience and works with both numerous local governments, several ISPs, including Plano, Amarillo, and others. And adding somebody to this list doesn't necessarily mean we'll do business with them. It just means it gives them the opportunity to provide us quotes when we ask. This is the historical yield curve for some of the benchmarks we use. And in 2018, we ended at a 5-year high for the 3-month through the 10-year securities, and then the 30 year was almost at a high. Most of our investments are on the short end of the curve, so we were earning 2% for the first time in many years. This then compares the yield we made on our portfolio compared to benchmarks. The red line, it's hard to see the color, but the red line is the 3-month T-bill. The gray line is the 1-year treasury, and then the yellow line is the average of our A-Leaf pools. The blue line is our A-Leaf agencies, and you can see at the end of the year that it's less than some of the benchmarks, but those securities were mostly purchased in 2017. And when we purchased those securities, they were earning higher. So if we had last year's graph, we would see the line red, it looks a little better than it does now. And then green is the average of the yellow and blue. It's the total yield of our whole portfolio. This next slide is our interest earnings by fund comparison over the last 5 years. This year we had a high for the 5 years of $4 million in earnings compared to a low of less than $200,000 just 5 years ago, and that was due to that. You can see how much higher the rate was this year. The average was 2.3%. We have a note down here that these earnings just do not include the fair market value adjustment. In our fiscal year end, we're required to adjust the book value of our investments adjust the book value to what's the fair market value. And the fair market value is what we could get if we had to sell any of these investments. But fair market value fluctuates on changes in interest rates. But since we hold all of our securities to maturity, we'll never experience any of those changes. So with that, it's just the true cash earnings on those investments. This is our maturity schedule of our unreserved investments at December 31st. That adds up to $19.2 million, and that's laddered based on our cash flow needs. This is the maturity schedule of our reserved investments. These are reserved for the repayment of the 2009 and 2010 Keyscap bonds. Normally, we make debt payments to an outside party, but for these bonds, they're different. We hold the funds and we pay ourselves and hold this in escrow, and each year we reduce the payment by the interest earnings. And we have a contract with TCG Advisors for the investment of these funds, and this is $15 million. Our current cash management strategy is to keep around $7 million in the bank to take advantage of the earnings credit rate on our balances. Because interest rates are low, this allows us to save more bank fees than we would earn in interest. And it also ensures we have adequate balances to cover our cash disbursement needs. And all dollars of that will be invest in one of the pools. And our cash flow projections allow we invest other money in longer term securities. And finally, our investment strategy remains the same as designed to meet our investment objectives to ensure the safety and liquidity of district funds. We ensure proper collateralization of our deposits. We ensure, like I said, the adequate balances to cover our disbursement needs. We maximize interest and we minimize bank charges. And, sorry. At this time, I'll answer any questions you have, and then I need you to please adopt an ordinance that you review the investment policy and strategies.
Board, in light of, board members had to step away and take care of tasks, I would like to delay taking action on this item at this time until I get a full board back into the room. Okay? Thank you. So that just means you have to sit and wait with this a little while.
Well done.
Thank you so much for the reporting, and the timing was just right. Okay? I'm going to ask Ava, could you go ahead and come forward with the academic calendar, please?
Yes. As you know, annually, we have to go through the approval process or the discussion process of approval of an academic calendar. So I'm going to have Carla Kessler, she oversees that process for us. So tonight, really, she just wants to engage the board in discussion on the calendar that the EIC has come up with so far. Hello again. Tonight, I just want to share a general overview of the calendar process with the board and see if you have any input that I can take back to the Educational Improvement Council. You know, the academic calendar is really where we note the important dates of the academic year that includes the first and last day of instruction and staff development days, grading periods, and bad weather days. So who is ultimately responsible for the calendar? As you know, the board approves the calendar. It is developed by the District Educational Improvement Council. So they are working hard on a draft calendar, which you also have before you this evening just to look at. But we'll be back in February for your final approval. The Educational Improvement Council is required under the Texas Education Code, the District Level Advisory Committee. It reviews different programs on behalf of the district and provides input. It is primarily comprised of elected individuals, but it also includes volunteers. So how does the Educational Improvement Council go about developing the calendar? First thing that it looks at is state law. The state requires that there's 75,600 operational minutes in each calendar, and that there be at least 240 instructional minutes each day. The calendar that we're looking at for 2019 to 2020, like this year, exceeds the state requirements in terms of the number of minutes. State law also requires that school districts start school no earlier than the fourth Monday of August. But in February of 2017, ABS became a distribution which allows us to begin school a little bit early. So the calendar that we are recommending or looking at this point begins August 14th, which is a Wednesday, much like we did this year. Also, in terms of state law, districts are allowed to request a staff development waiver from the Texas Education Agency. 2,100 minutes of instructional time to provide staff development. The state also said that we can't provide instruction on Memorial Day. We also have a lot of local considerations. The very first thing that we look at, and the most important priority, is what's best for student instruction. But then we look at all of these other factors. When should the first day of school be? When should the final day of the first semester and so forth. We also look at a number of local resources. Tonight we are looking for any input that we might have that take back to the Educational Council. We also look at what the holiday schedule looks like for the coming year. The state testing calendar. We participate with other districts in Region 4 to work together to try to make our calendars align. Of course, our Educational Improvement Council is a broad spectrum of individuals on it, and they're a wonderful resource, and we do talk with the superintendent's advisory councils for both teachers and students. So the calendar is developed over several months. Actually, it's not reflected here, but the
Educational Improvement Council begins talking about the calendar in September. But it takes the months of October and November to get feedback, to work with Region 4, to have an opportunity to share information with the board, and then to go back, and we will have 2 additional meetings between this evening and when we come back for board approval in February. So the calendar that the EAC is currently looking at, and I know that they're very brief, but I think that you probably received a full copy. But it continues with the 176 student days we have this year, 185 staff days. There will always be a week at Thanksgiving. The first semester will end by winter break. It will be only, and this is, I apologize for this in Aaron's presentation, there's not a 6-day difference between the semesters, there's a 4-day. So I apologize for that math error. We're trying to match our spring break with as many districts as we can. We know that there's going to be a little bit of disparities between some of our local school districts, but at the same time, we do match each other. We approved calendar, and their calendar last night, and it would also match ours and the HCC. At this point in time, we believe that their calendar will be the same as ours, which is really what we attempt to do. Our last day of school next year, that we're proposing, will be much like this year's, and that is the last day of school will be before Memorial Day. The calendar also includes bad weather days. And so the next step is that we will come back in February with the final calendar for recommendation to them. Are there any questions?
I'd like to know if the issue was resolved about the state changing the testing. That's the largest thing. And we make those adjustments where on the calendar? Where?
It was.
They've adjusted.
The state changed the testing calendar and moved back the May testing date to the same week that it is in this year. So it gave us a little more flexibility at the end of the year, and we were able to move the school date, the end of school back to before Memorial Day. So that did occur.
So the end of school day before Memorial Day, okay, May the 22nd.
Correct.
No, May the 21st would be the last day, including the emergency days, or the whatever bad weather days.
Yes, we have 2 bad weather days. The first bad weather day would be January 6th, which is Staff Development Day, and then February 17th, and then, if needed, the 22nd of May. And then, of course, in our calendar with our minutes, we have sufficient minutes built into the instructional calendar to account for some bad weather.
And you're stating the committee finalized this, they feel very comfortable with this. I'm looking at this calendar, and I guess I don't have the other to compare. How far different is this? The start date is the same, the ending date is what's different, am I right?
In terms of, if you're comparing it to this year's calendar?
Yes.
So this year's calendar, it looks very much the same. Yeah. And I think that they feel confident with this calendar. We do have a meeting this Thursday. We have another meeting in January before, in February before the next board meeting. We're still hoping for information from HCC that they'll finalize their calendar, give us some information. But I think at this point, the committee feels comfortable with this.
Okay. That was a question I had in my mind. I got a little distracted.
I have a question. I'm not necessarily looking at the 1920 school year, but maybe 2021, looking forward. And based on this presentation we just had on risk and so forth, have districts, do you know districts, that this is something brought up, we're painting it by the brush, the whole districts have the same calendar, everything. Are there districts that change their calendars? If there's some campus thing, longer days and some campuses and things like that. I know we've had some discussion in the past with that, so I'd like to have, to kind of look at some discussions that way. Because again, if we need to think outside the box and make things specific for our campuses and make things work, You know, this is one thing that could make a big factor based on some of the campus's needs.
Yeah, the school, I mean, there are districts, particularly when the state moved from the days to the minutes, who became kind of jockeying with their calendar, but to be honest with you, there were very, very few that lengthened the school year. There are more that maybe added a few minutes to the day and shortened the school year so they could, in terms of the days, they still had the right number of minutes. But I'll just give you a quick example. There's a district, and help me, just adopted their calendar in December, and they're going with a 4-day week, a 4-day school week, with Friday being staff development, professional, whatever you want to call it. And it would still be the same type of student activities on a Friday, but in terms of an instructional day, they just lengthened the school day from Monday through Thursday, and it's not a 3-day weekend. You know, you have to work on Friday, but you don't have kids there. That's a small district in south of Dallas. I cannot for the life of me remember the district, but that's the only one I'm aware of who's done something pretty significant or bold or whatever term you want to use. The thing that I think that I believe we're going to have conversations on as the legislature begins moving is that there's going to be quite a bit of money put into the budget that would allow districts to extend their school year in a real way, not summer school, but extend the school year for certain campuses, for certain student groups. There won't be enough money to do it for the entire, pre-K through 12, but beginning to dissolve that gap between the last day of May or the last weekend of May and starting school 2.5 months later. Those are things I'm going to be very interested in talking about.
Because I know there are some charter schools that, they have contracts and saying, 1 week, 1 Saturday a month, the child and the parent sign that if you want to participate in the school, you're going to go to these classes, these are the hours, and 1 Saturday a month, you need to come in and.
If they don't go, they get kicked out and sent back to us or whoever.
Yeah, for us, staffing would be a consideration. You have to get all sorts of buy-in and approvals on that. But speaking of the staff, it just occurred to me the question, remember when we began to change the school day, people were looking at us doing 2 calendars, trying to get comfortable with this idea. This is the second year that we've started on the 14th.
It's the third year. We're in the second year. We're in the second year now.
We're in the second year. So this will be the 3rd year. So everyone's feeling pretty comfortable. I think I had a conversation with a colleague about schools seeming like it's all year round, and I'm like, it pretty much is. Some are shrinking.
I think this is an accurate assessment. They weren't happy. Staff, teachers weren't that happy coming back early that first time. Mm-hmm. But they were happy when they got out earlier in May. So I don't want to put words in their mouth, but my advisory committee and the people that we talked to, they understood. I mean, they were the ones that approved the idea of even starting when we started.
The first summer was short.
Yeah, it was shorter.
And then after that,
the first one was so short.
It was short for Jeff Delisle.
Every summer feels short now.
It was short for Jeff Delisle, and it was short for a lot of people, and it put a lot of us in a bind. But I think now, I think that people are comfortable with it and understand, and they like the value. Now, to your question about significantly changing the calendar. I've said this publicly. I think the school year needs to be extended and funded in a real way. But until they do that, until the state funds it, and it's an expensive endeavor, it's going to be hard for districts to do it, even if they wanted to do it. So.
But again, I'm not saying necessarily painting the whole district, but if there's again, I would say that you don't have a possibility for the 19-20 school year because of time-wise and getting it done and staffing and doing all that and buy-in and all that. So, but if you're looking at 20 to 21, you start having a discussion and it starts. Then you start using the data that's coming out of this for the campus levels, and you start seeing where yes, it would benefit these campuses because they have 19 risk factors and these one only have 2. Maybe the 19, this is something they can change. To work with that campus or that camp, those kind of things come back with us. And, I'm open to looking at.
Good. I am too.
To that.
Yeah.
Hearing about it.
And I agree too. I'm gonna still say I agree with you. I'm just saying.
I think we have to.
I agree, but I'm saying publicly we have to also consider, just like the staff had to make an adjustment when we went to this calendar. in the beginning, you know, that would be such an adjustment. There are some people who want to work all summer long, but we would need to know who those people are before we say, you need to do this because the risk load factor says X, Y, Z. You know, they would have to understand that and want to be a participant, because the last thing you need is someone working during the time that they really do not expect to. You're not going to get much accomplished with your students if you're doing something like that. So, but I do like the idea of the fact that it's been August the 14th and now people are getting comfortable with that. And if such conversations do come up, you don't want them to get so, I mean, for many, many years, everyone knew you started school at a certain time, you had such a long summer, you could really plan. Our doing this calendar is to be thoughtful so that staff can also plan their time off with their family as well. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we continue that conversation. You know, isn't this what this is about? Because the committee brought it to us, right?
It's their calendar.
Okay.
It's their calendar.
I think that one of the things that we hear from staff too is that yes, they've gotten used to that earlier start date, but they're really happy and comfortable with that longer first semester. Because when we had that really short first semester, it was difficult in terms of instruction and curriculum and making that work. So I think there are a number of reasons that they're glad to have this calendar.
Are you sure about, are they very sure about October? Because, you know, you kind of run out of steam in October.
Yeah. We need a fall break, it need a fall
Yeah.
spring break.
So they only have that one day off in October
That's why
between,
we have the high altitude.
Absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah, it's a long haul from Labor Day.
You can
to
tell them to watch the
Thanksgiving.
video and see that, you know, the board really did take their consideration
It'd be nice to see those
seriously.
coordinate with the months, like you talked about, with the month, you know.
So if we look at an extended year, you can look at a fall break so they don't
Yep.
die in October.
Yep,
But you can also address the summer slide issue to keep
Correct.
students
correct.
from going backwards during those 2 months of absence.
So for you, for those of you out there tweeting, we're not
We're
extending
not
the school year
suggesting that.
right
We're
now.
not saying that. We're
I
saying.
guarantee I'll hear,
Speak now.
you're not lengthening my contract.
We're saying, speak now.
Exactly, we're going 4 days a week. That's what'll happen. That's what'll happen.
Except
what we're
administration
saying.
is gonna be here 5 days, so yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks,
Kessler, I
Paul.
appreciate it. Okay, board, we're now at item number.
No, we
We're
need
gonna
to go back to,
yes.
yeah.
We're gonna go back to number 9, Ms. Moreno, there was discussion.
There wasn't a quorum.
Did you have any questions, before you exited the room?
No.
Is there anything else that you need to be updated on concerning number 9?
No, I'm good. I'm good with you.
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion. I'll receive a motion from any board member to consider approval of the
I'm
ordinance.
gonna make the motion.
You can make the
Approval of the
motion.
ordinance, board review of the investment policy and investment strategies.
Okay, Mr. Moreno made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and Ms. Crowe, seconded. All in favor? Let the record show that it's 4-0. Where are my board members? We're still at a Happy New Year moment, but we're moving forward. Okay, item number 11 on the agenda.
And performance report, tonight we're going to have Natalie Martinez, our Director of Accountability Assessment. She's going to conduct a public hearing and report on 2017-18 data as was run TATR, how the share will be embedded.
Board and Mr. Chambers. Tonight we will review our 2017-2018 academic data from the Texas Academic Performance Report, which we frequently call the TAPER report. That is the largest part of the annual performance report. This does also serve as a public hearing, so at the end I will open up the floor to questions from the audience as well. The full report can be found on our ALE website under Department and Accountability. You'll be able to navigate through the different campuses' TAPER reports along with their performance objectives and their summative evaluations as well.
2017-18 was a difficult year for Ailey and many surrounding area districts. Harvey hit our area and Ailey was closed for 10 days. Once we reopened, we welcomed children back and we quickly began meeting not only their basic needs but their academic needs as well. The state of Texas did decide to move forward with state assessment that allowed Harvey provision for schools and districts who were closed more than 10 or more days. If a campus would have received an improvement required label, instead they received a not rated Harvey provision label. Districts with schools in this position also received the not rated Harvey provision. You'll see that Ailey had 35 schools that met standard. Remember, they won't move to the A through F rating until this current year. We had 6 schools that were not rated Harvey provision. Because of that, our district also received the not rated Harvey provision, but we did receive our numeric grade and all the data that goes with it, so I share with you as well that we received a 77. Remember, districts were rated with the A through F system, where campuses won't be until this current year. Before we get into all the data, I want to review 3 things very quickly with you. The first is the accountability system. And you've been exposed to this a few times, but just to refresh your memory, student achievement is domain 1. It is all about the performance on STAR. It also includes the CCMR, or the College Career Military Ready Indicators. Remember, the performance on STAR has the language of approaches, needs, and masters, and we'll review that very quickly in a minute as well. Domain 2 is all about school progress. There are 2 parts to Domain 2. The first part is growth. Remember, in the growth areas, we don't look at whether students passed or failed. We looked at did they grow from one year to the next. In 2B, it is about relative performance. They take our Domain 1 scores relative to other schools with similar economically disadvantaged populations. Domain 3 is really used to meet the federal requirements. This is the report where we start seeing all of our demographic information. We did have percentages attached to that. Remember, campuses are allowed to use the highest of Domain 1, 2A, or 2B to kind of 70% of their rating, and then 30% on the closing the gap. The second review is really just where do we assess. You can see that we test all of our content areas, but not necessarily in every grade level. Remember, in high school, it is about the course that they take, not necessarily the grade they are in. You'll also notice the 10 subpopulations in yellow. Those have not changed. We still review our data by all of these subpops. There have been some new indicators that rolled around in accountability. These are not necessarily found in the TAPER reports, but they are in the accountability reports. So it gives us another view on how to disaggregate our data. Hopefully you remember this third review, we looked at our stick figures. We ran that through with the board. Hopefully that was an easy way to understand that all kids matter. Even if kids are already passing, our job is to still focus on their needs and push them to those master levels. In the end, the AMM average stands for approaches, needs, and masters averaged together. So you'll see in that example, we took our percent approaches, percent needs, and percent masters. We added them divided by 3 to get 57 as an example. That approaches, needs, and master average is found throughout this entire accountability system. And now that your brain is ready, let's dig into the TAPER academic data. We like to start with the demographic information, which is in the TAPER report. You'll notice all of the state demographics side by side with our Ailey demographics to show a quick comparison, because we do like to compare ourselves to the state. You'll notice that our ECD pop is significantly higher than the state. It is, however, lower than last year. You remember we moved to an online system, and we found that some parents were having difficulties with that system. This year we had a push at the beginning of the year for the paper versions as well, so hopefully we meet the needs of the children, because they're actually, as you heard Dee say, turning in form. And so we should see that number go back up. You'll also see a difference in our ELL learners, and that percentage, again, significantly higher than the state level. It also increased 1 percentage point from the prior year as well. knowing that we are different from the state, we still like to compare our numbers. Here are ALEF-ISD numbers compared to state when we look at our A&M averages. In reading, for example, remember reading is from grades 3 to English 2. You'll see that our A&M average was a 39 compared to the state at a 46. You'll see all of our constant A&M averages there, and on average, we're about 8 points below the state, so we know that there's work to be done. We're making progress right now as well. Another perspective that we bring to the table, just to help you build your perspectives on how we're performing, we look at Houston area districts as well. I want to start with demographics again, because I find that to be important to build the whole picture of what we're talking about. Enrollment, of course, you see HISD with biggest numbers, Cyfair following behind them, but really we want to focus into mobility, ELL, and ECD in these districts. When we look at mobility, you'll notice that ALEF has the highest in this small group of districts that surround us, followed by Houston ISD and then Spring ISD as well. With our ELL population, you'll notice again, ALEF has the highest ELL population for this sample group of districts, followed by Aldine and Spring Branch. And last, with our ECD pop, Aldine was at the top. ALEF fell in second place with that one, and then followed by Pasadena. When we look at academics with that lens, I'll give you the 3 different sub-pops rank ordered here. Your A&M averages are not going to change, right? That is what it is. But I rank ordered it for you just to give you that perspective. So you'll see in this case, we re-ranked all of our districts based on mobility. Remember, ALEF had the highest mobility. In general terms, you know, the trends that we would see is the higher mobility you have, the lower your A&M averages. We did have the highest mobility, but we do not have the lowest scores. So you'll see those A&Ms shift, but they're not going to change. When we look at the different pops, here's your English language learners. Again, you'll find that we re-ranked these so that districts are in a different order. But again, general trends would say higher the ELL pop, lower your A&M average, and that's just not the case when we look at our scores. And the same holds true when we look at our economically disadvantaged. In addition to academic data, Tabor also reports on our CCMR data, which is college, career, and military ready. Here again are the same districts for comparison. The calculation of CCMR is new, but most of the pieces have been in place for quite some time. The calculation is a percent of annual graduates who meet one of the CCMR indicators. You'll see that 42% of our annual grads met at least one CCMR indicator. Underneath that, however, I give you these bullets where it's giving you individual percentages for those CCMR indicators. So for example, 32% of ALEF students met both the ELA and the MAP TSI criteria. That TSI includes SAT, ACT, and TSI. But the key word there is and. It has to meet both ELA and MAP. But you'll see our percentages down there as well. This report really has caused lots of discussion, not only in our district, but at the state level as well. Certifications, for example, is one of the hot topics where not all of the certifications are included on the approved list. So although our students were getting certified, if the certification was not on the state approved list, they weren't counted here. The state approved list had 77 roughly certifications, where now they've heard us, they're talking about 200 certifications. So we know that they're listening, we know that there are some adjustments to be done to the CCMR report. We're making our own adjustments internally here at the district, but we're also being very vocal at the state level to let them know how we feel and what's going on in our district. Growth measurement is a part of the TAPER report as well, so I'll show you math and reading, just runs differently. Remember, growth is just about growing from one year to the next, not necessarily about passing. You see when we rank order by math, we're in the top 5, which feels really good. When we go to reading, we do dip down, but you'll see that there's a tight ratio between districts there. Very similar performance. The TAPER also reports on our demographic data, and we've had lots of questions on demographic data. Domain 3 is where you want to go if you're looking at information in that way. So you'll see here, I pulled one piece of Domain 3, which was our Domain 1 score divided out into subpopulations. So our domain now is broken down into all of those subpops on the left-hand side. Now you'll also notice that each subpop has a different target that was set by baseline data from the 2017 school year. So for example, when I look at Domain 1, it's all kids put together. If I throw Domain 1 into Domain 3, I then can separate it out by subpopulation. For the African American population, which is first on our list, the target is 36 for that Domain 1 score. ALEC was hitting at a 40. Remember, your Domain 1 score is your approaches, meets, and masters. It's also your CCMR, your graduation rate, all combined for a district level. So you'll see the green check marks where we are meeting those standards, and we certainly look at that information to see where we can make some adjustments. This is the shortened version of the TAPER report and the annual performance report. Remember, the entire report is already loaded into the ALEC webpage. You'll see a link for district and then a link for each level with all campuses included in that report. Board, I'll ask you for questions first.
You're asking questions of us or the public?
I'll ask it of you first.
Okay. Ms. Bro, Mr. Moreno, any questions?
No, I'm just explaining something to him.
Okay.
She's exactly.
So no questions at this time, Natalie.
Okay.
The audience.
From the audience?
Sure. Heard a lot being talked about mobility. My concern is that it was highlighted in your presentation. The lady that spoke earlier said that it was ranked number 5 in concerns as far as academic performances. So I'm wondering why we continue to highlight that, especially when the district goes by a pacing guide. At the beginning of the school year, you brought the top 5 or top percentage of students from each campus here, and each one of them, every last one of them, had a high mobility rate. So my concern is that we're not focusing on the proper area. We're continuing to highlight high mobility when we're showing that that is actually a minimum problem compared to, I think the young lady said, absenteeism of the students and the teachers. And then we missed the board discussed professional development being given during the middle of the day, that being a problem. And then it was kind of whitewashed by saying the professional development was given in the afternoons and on the weekends. Well, that's still the situation. If you're working with your teachers to death throughout the week, and then you have them going on professional development after working on the weekends, yeah, they're going to take some time off during the week. So I think that we're not addressing the elephant in the room, and you all keep trying to put the earnest on mobility. If I go and eat McDonald's on the south side of Houston, I can go on the north side of Houston, and the French fries are going to taste the same because they cook them the same way. That's the same way that our school structure is supposed to be with this pacing guide. So focusing on mobility, I think, is a crutch and not addressing the elephant in the room.
It is one indicator that we highlighted today. This is actually the first year that I put mobility into the report, and the reason I did that was because the state put continuously enrolled and non-continuously enrolled in our accountability realm. So because we've had talks about continuously enrolled, I wanted to bring that to the table as well. But we also include ELL, which is a huge population. We also include ECD, which is a huge population. I welcome conversations about the TAPER. It's one of my favorite reports. So I would love to have more conversations with you and anybody who would like to dig deeper. Now, the professional development piece is not in the TAPER report. That's a separate and aside, but it does contribute to our numbers. I agree. It's something that we're looking at essentially, and something that we're already discussing with principals to address.
And mobility is an issue. It's not a crutch. I don't know about French fries and how they taste from one McDonald's to another, but I know when students leave one campus and move to another campus, that does have an impact on their ability. Is it the only impact? No. Is it an excuse? No. But it is an issue. I'm sorry?
Doing the pacing guide ineffective? Is that what you're saying? That doing the pacing guide is...
No, pacing guides are important. Very important, but they don't overcome the social, emotional, and academic problems that some children have when they're uprooted from a school and moved to another school, whether it's in the same district or from A-Leaf to another school district. When a second grader gets moved, they don't know they're moving from one A-Leaf school to another A-Leaf school. They just know they just moved from their teacher, their friends, wherever they may be living, and they know it's different and it's new. Some students react differently. But many of these students who are coming from either an economically disadvantaged backgrounds or they don't speak the English language very well, it is a tremendous impact. Is it the only impact? Absolutely not. No one has ever said it is, but it is an issue. And to characterize it as a crutch is wrong. Is wrong. Oh yeah, it's number 5.
The fifth thing, but you seem to keep focusing on number 5.
No, we focus on economic development, economically disadvantaged, ELL, all of them. You're hearing what you want to hear. We're dealing with all of them.
What item number 5 are you talking about?
He's talking about the risk load factors.
Oh, the risk, okay. The risk.
And I don't know if it was number 5. I just know she only gave us the top 2. She only said the top 2. She didn't give the top 5. So.
Ma'am, did you say it was number 5?
I think she's gone.
She's gone. She's gone.
Okay.
Nevertheless, it's not a crutch. And I want anyone that's listening to this to understand, it is not a crutch. It's a real thing that happens and it has an impact.
One before has a greater impact, obviously, that's what it is.
Some kids it has an impact on.
Mr. Barone, do you have another question that you'd like to add or any other? This is still open to the public to ask questions. Any other questions?
Responding to the superintendent, he has a dialogue with me.
Okay.
So I'm doing that.
And as board president, I'm bringing it back to order, to the agenda. And there was a question, and I welcome your comments. Okay.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Natalie?
Thank you.
I've asked 3 times, so thank you so very much for your report and your responses. We'll continue to hear more because you know accountability is a big deal for the board, and I agree. This discussion about mobility, just like risk loads and everything else, on new terms. The most difficult part about all of this is what the state holds us accountable to do. They kind of tie our hands on what we can and cannot do. So that's why I think now at this time we're throwing everything out there to say what is the problem, what is the problem. And I agree. French fries from one McDonald's in another city to another tastes the same. But mobility, you know, some people are impacted by it, some people are not. Some people have great support systems to get through it. And the truth is some of them do not. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, board, we have completed the annual performance. So that means that we're at item number 12. And item number 13, I'd like to put them together at this time, board, because we're newly back. I think it was brought to our attention this week. I don't know, it seems like we've been working the whole time. But the board has just come back within this week. Everybody's come back to work, right? So here's what I would like to do, if you don't mind. I would like to bring item number 12 and number 13 back again when we have a full board presence, since this is about the board's core beliefs and the board's operating system. Does anyone have any objection to that?
I do, Ms. Williams. I think 12, we've had enough discussion on the board release and the commitments, because that was based on a meeting and that's gone through, you know, I'm just talking about that particular item. Mm-hmm. The other item with the operating procedures, yeah, I would like to have that seat come back so it has more time to kind of dig through that policy. I mean, it's a great document. It's a lot of work put into it, and I'd almost like to see that freestanding, because that's a whole different purpose of our commitment as a board or team of 8.
I do agree with you, Mr. Moreno, but While the board participated in a board workshop, we did a full team building workshop, and what is great, beautiful document was created. The only thing is, as a board, we have not sat down and said we agreed or want to change anything. I know, Mr. Chambers, I haven't heard any feedback from anyone on whether or not they saw the full document as printed.
The revised
This
one?
Yes.
Yeah, he said in board notes that we've had a couple of changes, I think, Ms. Brewer, and I think we've had a couple of changes that were corrected to that.
Right.
So there have been some modifications, a couple modifications.
Yeah, I made the adjustments that Ms. Burrow and Ms. Key gave. Those are the only two comments I had.
And that's the reason I was, we've discussed it.
Can I make a statement about
Sure.
that?
Yes.
I feel like this document is very, very important, and I think the presence of everyone to agree to what we discussed is important, that everybody is there, that's on record, that all 7 members voted to adopt the core beliefs and commitments, not 4 of us.
Okay. So at this time, we will move this to one of our next meetings, as well as the board operating procedure. And so I want you guys to keep in mind, those of you, just do another review. Mr. Chambers put it out stating in board notes, this will be the final. The reason why we need to do that, because these core beliefs are also adopted inside of our operating procedure. And one can't work without the other.
Okay, we'll do that.
And also, that'll give the board a little more time to have a hard copy. I know some people, such as myself, can't see this on the iPad so well with the red lines. So I look forward to some bedtime reading with these red notes.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I know, I have nothing else to do but, read this material.
So do you guys want me to, well, I guess I should ask all 7. Do y'all want the core beliefs included in the actual board operating procedure document?
Was it not, did we have?
I don't think so.
Was it in there before?
Not, well, no, because that's a new, your board goals and priorities were.
First page, front center, I think.
Yeah, that's what
I thought it was first page.
No, we have
You don't have the priorities and.
the core
But
beliefs.
the core beliefs and commitments.
Those are the old ones.
These
Right,
are
that's what
old
I'm
ones, that's what I'm saying.
So once we adopt these, we want to update the operating.
Yeah.
And I would kind of like to see those core commitments and beliefs created like a compact where there's a signature sheet where we all put it in writing that we agree with those and agree to abide by
You could
them.
make it a resolution if you wanted.
And so that information or that not conversation, but put that out in board notes so that the members could go ahead and start responding to that as well. Okay? All righty.
Will do.
With that said, board, I'm going to also delay the board committee report because I had asked Ms. Butler to supply me with some information, and she was not ready to do that at this time. And I understand Ms. Rowe.
Yes, we have our committee meeting this week.
Okay, scheduled this week. All right. So, Mr. Moreno, anything else? Anything else?
I would like to make a statement that, and if the administrators to pass on the campuses, thank you for the box of A-Leaf wonderful items that we have in the back and all the candy.
Appreciation.
I haven't even gone through it.
Thank you for the appreciation. Let's go on record.
So I thank you for appreciation for all the campuses that provided things for us and doing it. So I just wanted to
Thank you.
So it's very well appreciated.
Just rerun this video for them, and the board says 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
All righty. With that said, I am going to, at this time, call this meeting adjourned.
Very good. Let me do that forward.